Good afternoon and welcome to the 21st meeting of the 24th City Council. This meeting is now called to order. All of our councilors are present this evening via Zoom video conference. As we do with all of our meetings, we'll begin this evening with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance in English and Spanish led by Councilor Sena. And as you think about your own thoughts in our moment of silence tonight, we ask you to think about all the New Mexicans that have passed during this week that the governors declared our flags at half-staff to honor the more than 1,000 New Mexicans who've died as a result of COVID infections. So if you will join us in our moment of silence and then the pledge by Councilor Sena.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de Estados Unidos de América y la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you for volunteering for that tonight. We appreciate it. A few housekeeping notes before we get started this evening. As always, and it was noted in our press release from our office on Friday, posted on our website and noted, in our published agenda, this meeting, like it seems like all of them have been forever now, has special procedures given the governor's declaration of a public health emergency and restrictions on large gatherings. Therefore, this meeting and all the ones in the foreseeable future are being held by Zoom video conference. Members of the public, our city staff, and the media all have the ability to view this meeting through 3 different online platforms: on GovTV, on Comcast Channel 16, the GovTV website, and on YouTube. These live streams can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, or computers. And for those watching on the live stream, we thank you for joining us. Take note that if you're watching us on one of those live programming options, we happen to have a brief technical interruption, as we occasionally do, we'll tweet out where you can still find us, but you can always find us on both the GovTV website, YouTube, and Channel 16. And video recordings of this and all council meetings are available for viewing at any time on the city's council website, so you won't miss anything. Council staff is available via phone. If members of the public need assistance in finding our videos, just call us at 768-3100 during business hours, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. As with all of our meetings now, the council is accepting live general public comment today for those who sign up, beginning on the Friday before a meeting, as well as any written comments. Those comments received by 1 o'clock were distributed to councilors earlier today. Before we get to our public comments, however, we have a couple of other matters, beginning with a proclamation from Councilor Sena. Councilor, I believe you have some guests, and so if you'll introduce them, we'll give you the floor.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. I have a proclamation recognizing November as Diabetes Awareness Month. With me is Betty Miller, the District Coordinator for the New Mexico Lions Diabetes Awareness Program, and Mary Damon, Secretary for the New Mexico Lions Diabetes Awareness Program. Both will be accepting the proclamation. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas each November, communities across the country observe National Diabetes Month to bring attention to diabetes and its impact on millions of Americans, with this year's campaign by the American Diabetes Association being called We Stand Greater Than. And whereas recent research by the Diabetes Research Institute, published in 2020, revealed that the U.S. population overall prevalence of diagnosed and undiagnosed people with diabetes for 2018 were 34.2 million people of all ages, which is 10.5% of the US population, one of the highest prevalence of diabetes in the world. And whereas approximately 222,000 New Mexicans have diabetes, and whereas diabetes also affects different ethnic groups differently, with the prevalence of diagnosed diabetes was the highest among American Indians, Alaskan Natives at 14.7%, people of Hispanic origin at 12.5%, African Americans at 11.7%, followed by Asians at 9.2%. And whereas The ADA states that for the individual, people with diagnosed diabetes incur average medical expenditures of $16,752 per year, and the percentage of adults with diabetes increased with age, reaching 26.8% among those aged 65 years or older. And whereas diabetes can increase the risk of heart disease and kidney failure and can result in lower limb amputation, adult onset blindness, and as well as lower life expectancy. And whereas in 2017, there were 270,702 death certificates with diabetes listed as an underlying or contributing cause of death. And whereas research has indicated that people with diabetes are more likely to experience severe symptoms and complications when infected with a virus, including COVID-19. And whereas a knowledgeable community can help achieve improvement in health of the community by working together towards the goal of a better management of diabetes and prevention of some cases by type 2 diabetes. And whereas November is American Diabetes Month, a time to take action together as a community, because together we can conquer this disease. Together we stand greater than diabetes. Be it proclaimed that the Council, the governing body of the City of Albuquerque, hereby recognizes November as National Diabetes Month in Albuquerque. And with that, I will take it to, I believe I see Ms. Mary Damon on.
Yes. And I'm Betty Miller. I've been the director for the Diabetes Awareness Program since we became incorporated in 2014. And I know that all of you miss Ken. He was an advocate for diabetes. We got some information this morning from the American Diabetes Association, and Ms. Brown, who is the new director for New Mexico and for Arizona, has got some lectures she's going to be doing this month. So if you want those, I'll get those to Elaine and she can distribute them to you. As the proclamation stated, 34 million people in America are living with diabetes. The only comment about the COVID-19 was that 34% or 40% of those had people who died from the pandemic did have diabetes. And so, you know, contributing for all those people that have underlying conditions, it's been a real test of endurance for everybody connected, hospitals, doctors, nurses, and we just pray for them. Mary, you want to have a comment?
Well, I'm kind of new to this group, so it's nice to see everybody. I guess I will, as I've been learning a lot about the Diabetes Awareness Program and being involved in different programs myself, I really appreciate everything that everybody does for the awareness and for helping to give and put information out and education out. So I'm also a pretty big advocate, other than being the secretary with those duties, is helping with events to put on expos and things like that, just to get the word out, and so that we have exposure out here in the East Mountains. And so we can just help people become aware of where they can go and what they can do to get services for direction. So thank you for inviting me today. And yeah, I look forward to working with the group.
Yeah, our chair for the Diabetes Awareness in New Mexico was unable to attend today. She had other business she had to attend to. So you got us. and I have I've met several of you throughout the years when I have come to the commissioners' meetings. So, It's nice to see faces again, though.
Well, thank you so much for that, both Ms. Damon and Ms. Miller, for receiving this proclamation and for also honoring the late Councillor Sanchez, as well as Elaine. I know that this is a topic near and dear to their heart. And of course, Elaine's also near and dear to my heart as well. I appreciate you both and appreciate the council for recognizing this month as well.
And if you want to donate, because, you know, we're a nonprofit, we do use the funds for educational material, and hopefully by next year we will be able to travel like we used to and do workshops and educational programs across the state. So, and we have got Lions clubs across the state have been very supportive. Yeah. And we have the 180 camp for children who have type 1 diabetes. And that's where a majority of our funds go, because many of the children's families cannot afford to send them to the camp. So we do support that. In fact, we have some money in a trust right now for them, and we are hoping that people across the state who have children who have type 1 will get in touch with us and see whether they will be able to go to the camp next year. Unfortunately, it was closed this year.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it very much. Councillor Sena, anything else?
That was it. I see that Councillor Borrego has her hand up, so I'll leave it to her. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councillor Borrego, you have a question. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to thank these ladies for their efforts and for, you know, knowing the numbers in New Mexico of people that are affected by diabetes. My ex-husband had diabetes and it was very severe, in addition to pancreatitis, which he later died from. So thank you, Councillor Sena, for doing this and for bringing this to our attention and for bringing it to the Albuquerque attention. It's a very difficult disease. I also have this disease in my family. I've had numerous aunts and uncles that have had this disease. So I know it's a very debilitating disease. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for having us.
Ms. Miller and Ms. Damon, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your work, and we do look forward to seeing you back in person, hopefully next year.
Hopefully I'll be there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next up, the council wants to recognize a presentation from Director Pierce regarding the Homeless Coordinating Council. Director, are you on in one of our administration rooms?
Great.
I see you pop up there in the mayor's conference room with a few friendly faces.
Yes.
Director, thank you for agreeing to do this presentation. I think it was a request of a counselor to do that, but could you give us a quick update on the Homeless Coordinating Council?
I sure will. And thank you so much, Councillor Davis and City Council members. So Homeless Coordinating Council, and I think, thanks for forwarding that. So the City Council voted to create this council in June. The MOU was signed by the county, the city, and UNM in August. And starting at that point, the council meets every 2 weeks. I did put the little link in there because this meeting follows the Open Meetings Act. We have people sign up for public comment, and all of the meeting notes and the agendas are on that link. Next slide, please. So the Homeless Coordinating Council was structured based on the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. I wanted to remind folks it's just advisory only. They're making recommendations, and any decision regarding the city ordinances or money would need to come back to this council. And then also, because there's a lot of behavioral health recommendations, that would go, that policy or that recommendation would go back through the ABCGC. So just a reminder on the next slide, please, is that there are 8 members on this coordinating council. The mayor chairs it. We have 2 city councilors, 2 county commissioners, the county manager, and then UNM, 2 members selected by the president. And it is President Garnet Stokes that attends and Dr. Mike Richards. And as you can see on this, the county city councilors and county commissioners were selected based on areas that were for proposed shelters and that their areas would have a high interest in this discussion. Next slide, please. So one of the things that was in the MOU is that we needed to have an outline for a coordinated community-wide framework. And I believe that all of you got in your packet, you didn't get it too much more before this meeting, but you received the framework on homelessness. And this was approved preliminarily by the Homeless Coordinating Council last Tuesday. I also put in there that members are always talking with their respective decision-making bodies regarding anything that's coming through that, as well as any recommendations. Next slide, please. So in the framework, what was agreed upon by the council is we needed to look at core areas, services, facilities, outreach, and affordable housing for both adults and youth. And so early on, we created 5 committees from that area, and they're co-chaired by city, county, and UNM. And this framework, as I mentioned earlier, was approved. So the next few slides, as you'll see, I'm going to go over some of those, the 5 committees and what their charge is. Next slide, please. So the Homeless Services Committee, you can see our 3 co-chairs, Quinn Donne from the city, Commissioner Charlene Piscotti, and Rodney McNeese. So I want to say for all these committees, they are meeting every 2 weeks. They're meeting on the off weeks when the Homeless Council is not meeting. These committees are meeting. And the purpose for this committee was to identify the key needs and for services and how to minimize neighborhood impact. Now, the details are contained in the document that we sent, and what all committees did, they identified needs and gaps and what were the high impact strategies. Next slide, please. The Gateway Facilities Committee, those 3 co-chairs you can see, Mr. Rael, Commissioner O'Malley, and Tom O'Neill from UNM. And their job is to also look at what the Services Committee is identifying as gaps and needs, but to secure the land and facilities for that system. And we are very specific as we talk about the system, and we have many homeless providers in our community, and the gateways or anything we do is part of this greater network of the system that exists in our community. We just have gaps in this system that we need to address. Next slide, please. Coordinated street outreach, really an important piece of making this system work. Xochitl Campos-Biggs from the city, Commissioner Cawley from the county, and Denise Lynn is a psychiatrist from UNM, is the co-chair there. So they've been, on their committee, they have a lot of folks that already do street outreach, and they're meeting to look at how they can create a better system that covers all areas, has a variety of hours, and that good communication mechanism between all outreach providers. Next slide, please. The Affordable Housing Committee, and as you can see, we've divided it into adult and youth. And we did that because the needs for youth are very distinct as they are for adults. So Deputy Uval, along with Betty Valdez from the county, and Mark Childs from UNM are the co-chairs. And their job is they are taking the report done by the Urban Institute that identified core strategies for our community and identifying what of those that we need to really move forward and prioritizing those. And the last slide in terms of committees is referring to the youth housing continuum, with Quinn from the city, Jennifer Sacco from Bernalillo County, and Asada and Nasha from UNM. A very dynamic committee that is looking at the solutions for the very unique population 18 to 25. And again, we created this because there are many needs and gaps for this population that our community is currently not addressing. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, in the document that we sent earlier, you can see that for every committee, they identified the needs and gaps and what are the high impact strategies. This was approved by the coordinating council. The next steps are for them to take what they submitted and to identify who would be a lead organization. I mean, if it's behavioral health, it's more than likely somebody from the county that has the expertise on that. And to look at all those strategies and to identify timelines, what can be done immediately and what's more short-term or long-term, and then to begin looking at the operational costs. So now this is what all those committees as they're meeting every 2 weeks are doing with the document that I sent out a little earlier. And I think I have just one more slide. I just wanted to have a conclusion slide, and just that these committees and the council are working very hard to solve one of our community's most pressing needs, which is homelessness, and just really appreciate the council's support on this. And I just stand for any questions if there's time.
Thank you, Director. Counselors, we'll open it up to questions if you have any. While we're waiting, Director, I just want to say thank you. I see one counselor jumping in here as well.
Oh.
Director, I just want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure to work through this process. I know as everybody was the council that with support from the mayor and the county commission, we helped to bring this together and set up a process for it. I know a number of counselors, their staff have participated in these meetings as well. And we look forward to getting those final recommendations back so that we can move forward. I think we're starting to see a vision for where this is going and can do that fairly quickly. So I appreciate the hard work. It's not often that the government can do something this big, this quickly, but you and Mr. Real and all of your staff have been great in terms of helping to coordinate this, as have the folks at the county, and I do appreciate it. Councilor Pena, Councilor Benton, and Councilor Senna. Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, Director Pierce. I just had a couple of questions. I know that, when we established, why I voted against it, but established the Homeless Coordinating Council, we're talking about homelessness. And when we're talking about the money, we're talking specifically about the triage center dollars, because, or does this, from the county's perspective, include the behavioral health dollars that were as part of it? And the reason I asked that question is because, I'm very fearful that sometimes when we're talking about just homelessness or just behavioral health or just addiction, they're usually one and the same. And, I'm just a little fearful that when we're having the conversations, we're not kind of addressing the continuum of care and how this progresses, because, just as I've stated before, just dealing with homelessness is not going to really do anything to impact the larger issue and the underlying issue that we have in our community.
Councilor Davis and Councilor Pena, thank you for that question. I think one of the beauties of having a mixed group co-chair and the people that are on this committee, I think there's clear recognition that homelessness does not stand alone, that people have addictions, they have behavioral health issues. So I think collectively those issues will be addressed, as we do have $5 million in the budget as a placeholder for behavioral health crisis triage. We know that's an essential gap that needs to be filled in our community, that people have a place to go, that first responders can take somebody that's in need of services to get that addressed. So I stand for any other questions if I didn't answer that fully.
Mr. President, if I can follow up on that. So I appreciate that, but when we talk about it being the Homeless Coordinating Council, I just want to make sure that we're clear. Maybe we need to kind of look at that resolution again, and do we need to add that as part of it? Because I really, as you know, Director, putting someone with mental health issues as a single diagnosis and giving them housing, it doesn't solve the problem, or vice versa. You're giving somebody who has substance abuse issues or drug addicted housing isn't going to be really where we need to start with all this, and just going back to when we started this whole conversation, it was just real important to me anyway to really talk about, oftentimes it's not singular, but it's dual diagnoses as we move forward. So I just want to make sure we're going down the wrong path, because I've heard from lots of different people about housing first, and just my experiences and just kind of seeing what's happening in our community. I think housing is an important component of all this, but I don't know that it necessarily, I think it's the chicken or the egg, depending on the circumstances, right? Because no one fits into a single mold, but I'm not sure that housing first is kind of the direction we need to go.
Yes, Councilor Davis and Councilor Penny, I would like to say a couple things. In the MOU that the City Council approved, it does really highlight that the recognition for city and county and UNM to come up with these solutions to end homelessness, which really includes the tangible gateways to decent, affordable housing and behavioral health services. So I totally appreciate what you're saying. We are living that complexity every day with the coronavirus in very important conversations with our UNM state and county partners, because we've got this system for people to get support if they have coronavirus, if they have mild behavioral health problems. But if they are withdrawing or they have big behavioral health problems, we have a gap right now in our system that we're trying to solve. And I totally agree on housing. One size does not fit all. And what we're doing right now, and I'll be coming back to City Council, I think, in 2 weeks to talk a little bit about our housing work with our rapid rehousing and what we're doing with the people in our 2 wellness hotels and trying to get them into housing and the best fit that is for them. So again, I welcome ongoing conversations. I don't think I'm fully answering your question, but happy to continue the conversation.
Thank you, Director.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Next up, Councilor Benton, then Councilor Senate. Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, Director Pierce, for the update. I think one of the slides used the word plan, and I think we should not be using the word plan at this stage of the game. What we are doing is trying to describe a framework, and that's a framework of existing services and also a framework of gaps, as was stated in the slides. That's really important to distinguish that we're not coming up with a plan at this point. We're trying to describe the lay of the land. And that is something I think is a tremendous accomplishment that we've gotten this far in this short of a time, to be able to fairly succinctly, but I think quite comprehensively describe the challenge. And that challenge, and so instead of plans right now, what is being described are high impact strategies. These are the decisions that could be made, or changes that could be made in what we do with delivery of services to persons experiencing homelessness, that will have a high impact on all those various groups. I mean, it's not just the young adults or teenagers. It's, veterans. It is, women with children, oftentimes victim of domestic abuse and so forth. So it's a really broad spectrum, but for each of these gaps where we identify where the gaps are, the next step is to begin to create plans that will fill those gaps, and also will identify the funding that's going to be required, because we have to face it, that it will be considerable. There'll be considerable public investment to take this on. And then just quickly with regard to housing and housing first and so forth, the folks from Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless keep emphasizing that housing is a big component in health, whether mental health or any other kind of health, that to have a decent roof over your head in a place where you're secure, it is so important. So I do think that's important to remember. Also with regard to the behavioral health initiative, one person who's very active in this work and also has been very active in the behavioral health initiative is Robert Beatty from RFK Charter School and works on many other issues in the community. And he has been very helpful on the housing committee, along with our partners at UNM, and the director of real estate at UNM is also a member of the housing committee, and has really been helpful. So I think we've taken a big step in getting together with the county and UNM on this, and I'm looking forward to the next step after the release of this final document. It's the first document to emerge from the process. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor. Director, I see you nodding if you want to respond. Otherwise, we have two other counselors who also want to add some comments as well. Great. Counselor Sena, then Counselor Borrego.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. Of course, jumping into this, just looking at the presentation, I'm curious where community comes into the coordinating council. I saw, a lot of county, city, and UNM folks, but would love to hear, about some of the nonprofits and the communities that are doing the outreach. I saw that there is a street outreach committee, so I'm guessing some of it would go through there, but would love to know what other nonprofits, community, the people that actually serve a lot of this population, where they play in that part.
Counselor Davis and Counselor Sena, thank you for that question. On, for example, on the services committee, we've got HopeWorks, The Rock, New Day, Good Shepherd Center, Heading Home, Albuquerque Healthcare for the Homeless, and Barrett House. So some examples there. On housing, we've got the Housing Authority, as well as the Mortgage Finance Authority. We've got HopeWorks, Greater Albuquerque Housing Partnership, and Healthcare for the Homeless. On coordinated street outreach, again, Healthcare for the Homeless, HopeWorks, First Nations, Carol Bruska from Heading Home, the New Mexico Coalition to End Homelessness, the Dream Center, and the Veterans Administration, as well as Street Safe. I hope I'm beginning to answer the question. So on that link I put in the web, in my presentation, the list of all the committee members are on that, if that would help. As well as one, and I'm glad you asked that question, because one of our next steps that I did not include in my presentation is that we are asking for public input on this framework with the gaps and high impact strategies. And so that will be going online with a feedback sheet. And that's our first step. And then our second step is we're anticipating doing some Zoom meetings where people can participate. I also want to say that in particular on the services system committee, that's where we have very active neighborhood people that are there sitting side by side with our service providers, a very rich discussion. And so they're very active there. So thank you, Counselor Sena, for the question.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it because I know that this issue takes our entire community and it's very multifaceted and very nuanced to address a lot of the issues here. So I really appreciate that and looking forward to when we can share with our neighborhood associations and with the city as to when they can give feedback. So thank you.
And thank you, Counselor Sena and Davis. If I may add, we will make sure that all city councilors, when we're ready to give you the link and the form so we can get that word spread out there so people can give us feedback on the framework, we'll include all city councilors in that. And that is coming very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Director. Counselor Borrego.
Thank you, Mr. President. Carol, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for the work you're doing, because I know that it's not easy work and you're just an amazing person. as well as a director. I know that cities across the nation are struggling with this issue, and it's not an easy issue to deal with. And I don't know that any city really has a really, really good solution. I myself have kind of studied cities across the nation to see, you know, what would be a good model, and I hope that we have a good model. What I'm wondering about are trends that you're seeing, and if there's a study or there's information available that people can access. I myself would like to access that information with regard to trends. And when I talk about trends, I'm talking about things like migration, because, you know, we've heard that some people come to Albuquerque because it's warm in the summer and it's seasonal, and then they leave town, or they go travel to maybe a different area of the state. And I'm just wondering if you guys have that information, if it's available to the public. And I myself would like to see some of that background information. The other thing that I'm interested in is the percentages of people placed in housing, and this kind of gets back to Councilor Pena's comment. How many people actually stay in housing once they're placed there? If there's any information that we have that shows, you know, what percentage of people that, you know, actually transition into a real life situation rather than being on the street, I guess. So I'm just wondering if we keep that type of information. So that's my first question. And I know that's a long question, but that's information that I'm very interested in. And then the other thing, well, I'll let you answer that first. And then I have one other question, if it's okay, Mr. President.
So Councilor Davis, Councilor Borrego, I think the first thing on trends, there's not a specific study I can point to, but the one thing that we do know is that because we're the largest community here in our state, we often see people coming from other New Mexico communities because they don't have a shelter there, or they don't have the infrastructure to support somebody without a home. And so we are seeing that trend. I think as I present in 2 weeks our plan on housing, I can absolutely include, we do collect the data, how long somebody is staying in housing, depending on if that's rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing, and we can include that data. I think we're going to be getting some good information about that, because as we are razor sharp focus on these 2 wellness hotels that have people without homes, and the whole plan is to get them into housing. And I'm getting a report every week on what's their disposition. Did they get a housing voucher, or did they get reconnected with a family member? And we're learning all kinds of things on this really very focused amount of people on these two hotels. And I think that will give us some really good data on where people are, where they're needing to go to get housing, or how many people are just needing to get back connected with a family member for care. So, but for some of the data on housing, I will make sure we include that on our presentation that I anticipate in 2 weeks.
Thank you. I think that Trends tells a story, and it tells a story about people who are, you know, actually native New Mexicans, and people who are just are transitional, I guess, or, you know, migrating to other places. So I think that might be something that you might want to look at. The second question that I have is regarding the vouchers. And I know we had this conversation during our budget, but I just wondered, and I'm sure that you're already doing this, but I just wondered if you just wanted to comment a little bit, your thoughts on restructuring our voucher program.
Councilor Davis and Councilor Borrego, yes, we've been working very hard on what we can do to open up the pipeline as it relates to housing vouchers. So since we talked about this in budget, we have done a couple things. We have met with all of our about 10 providers that currently do housing vouchers to identify what are the barriers, what are some of the things that get in the way from expending all those funds. We've identified that. We have met through the introduction of Counselor Davis, met with the New Mexico Apartment Association and have some plans related to that. We have met with one of the districts to identify from neighborhoods what some of their thinking is. So, and we've also talked about a landlord mitigation fund and found out what some landlords are already doing to get that mitigation fund when an apartment might get wrecked, for lack of a better word, and what we can do to keep our businesses whole when that happens. So those are some of the thinking. We're putting more meat on those bones, if you will, that to present that next in 2 weeks. But that's been some of our thinking. We've had many very good conversations with a variety of people on this.
Thank you, Director Pierce.
Thank you.
Thank you, counselors, and thank you, Director. Seeing no other questions, Director, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, hopefully for the update on the vouchers as well. And I know Ms. Ortega is getting that scheduled with your office. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Seeing no other proclamations or presentations, we'll move on to general public comments. As was stated earlier, live public comment is being taken today, and we had folks sign up to speak. Again, we also received written comments that were submitted to counselors earlier. So members of the public under our rules are allowed to address the council if they've signed up for live public comment per the rules published on the agenda. Members of the public are being moved from our waiting room into this meeting room now and can begin public comment shortly. And we're going to wait till Mr. Moya gets them all in so I can do this in one swoop. Here we go. Thank you, sir. In just a minute, our Zoom moderator, Mr. Moya, will begin announcing the names for public comment. Here are the ground rules. Each participant has 1.5 minutes to present. You need not use all of your time. Comments are to be addressed to the counselors only and only through the council president. And any disruptive comment could result in removal from the Zoom meeting room. Again, there is a 1.5 minute time limit, and the timer starts once you begin speaking. I'll turn this over to Mr. Moya, who will begin introducing you, and we'll start your time as you begin speaking. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our first speaker will be Lois Stearns, followed by Mr. Andrew Lippman. Ms. Stearns, if you want to unmute yourself, feel free to turn on your video, and your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
President Davis, city councilors, I am Lois Stearns and have lived in Four Hills Village for 25 years. The state of New Mexico has 493 to 555 miles of Route 66, depending upon the route, and runs from east to west, Central Avenue through Albuquerque. This bill would provide much needed federal funds for cultural preservation, economic development, and promotion of the area and the entire state. This includes, among other benefits, purchase of properties along the corridor only if the property owner wished to sell, architectural enhancements, landscaping, lighting, signage, and promoting the Mother Road to tourists. Not pursuing this bill would be a tremendous economic and cultural loss to our city as well as our state. Line 21 of the memorial mentions that criteria must be met. The criteria mentioned was met. Ray Public Law 101-400, enacted in 1990, 30 years ago, per Natural Resources Department statement made on December 12th, 2018, regarding HR 801 and Senate Bill 3609, passage long overdue, with a historic trail designation secures permanent funding, whereas other designations are usually term limited funding. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this critical issue for all New Mexicans.
Thank you, Ms. Stearns. Our next speaker is Andrew Littman. Please feel free to turn on your video and unmute yourself. And our next speaker after that will be Ms. Bonnie Garcia. Mr. Littman, your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Hi, my name is Andrew Lippman. I'm here in my capacity as a board member of the East Gateway Coalition of Associations, and I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Four Hills Village Association Board. I've been in Albuquerque for over 25 years, living in Four Hills Village, and I'm here to support Memorial 20-1, amending the National Trails System Act to designate the Route 66 National Historic Trail. I think this is important memorial, and I'm hoping that its passage will lead to access to federal funding to purchase additional land along the Route 66 and to Harris Trail, and as well as development, particularly along East Central, where more funding is needed to help develop things there. So thank you, councilors and Mr. President, for your time. And I appreciate supporting Memorial 20-1 to designate Route 66 National Historic Trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Littman. Our next speaker is Ms. Bonnie Garcia. I see your video already on. Please unmute yourself. And you will be followed by Mr. Steve Atwood. Ms. Garcia, your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. My name is Bonnie Garcia, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for Eco ATM Gazelle. I'm here today to speak in support of item 14A, the secondhand dealer ordinance that you'll be considering today. During these extraordinary times, we're all working remote and struggling to deliver quality services to our customers and our constituents. And I'm here today from beautiful and sunny San Diego to personally thank Councilor Gibson, her policy analyst, Abigail Stiles, your council attorney, Mr. Melendrez, and the city staff for working with the business community to improve the language and to take the time to better understand technology and the environmental benefits that we provide beyond just being a member of your community. We have 17 kiosks in your city, and our job is to help consumers understand the importance and value of recycling broken and used cell phones that are today sitting in drawers. Our company is a pioneer in this industry, and thus far we've recycled more than 27 million phones as of today. When I wrote a letter to the council a month ago, asking you to consider amendments to the bill that your committees were considering, at that time we had recycled 25 million phones. That's equivalent to 7.5 million pounds of electronic waste that is not landed in landfills across the United States. And specifically to your city, we've collected 7,500 pounds of electronic waste directly from your constituents at no cost to local government. So that's an important message for your community. We, the business community, want to work with you, government, to improve the environment for all of us. And again, a special thank you to Councilor Gibson for her efforts in making sure that business and government work together to improve the language.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Councilor Gibson, I see you have a follow-up before we let Ms. Garcia go.
Yes, I just wanted to extend my thanks to Ms. Garcia for bringing this to our attention, and she was wonderful to work with to come up with just the right language for this bill. So thank you, and I know you took time out of your day to be with us, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that you made the effort to come and address the full council. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mr. President, let me just conclude. I do government affairs for our company for all 50 states. We have more than 4,000 locations across the United States. And I will say by far, Albuquerque has been one of the best cities to work with. In less than 30 days, we had agreement on making this a better ordinance. So thank you, and to the rest of the council for your support in this effort.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Our next speaker is Steve Atwood, followed by Myra Gatas. Mr. Atwood, feel free to turn on your video and unmute yourself. Your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Hello, my name is Steve Atwood. I live off Route 66 over in the Oakwood Homes. I'd like to first second that man's inquiry into the historic nature of this road. I'd like to second speak out against a proposal I saw the council was thinking on. Seems two of our city councilors think employees should be guaranteed time off. Councilor John Cena and Pat Davis, I appreciate you have a heart for the common people. I myself worked at the Kenner Brick Quarry till they found some fish fossils there in the 80s, and me and Phil Reese got laid off. You know what happened then? I got divorced, and Phil got the West Angeles gangrene. That's what we called it anyway. I don't know what it said on his prescription. I get people who can't go to work when they're sick. I think we should send them to work at the hospitals. They can sweep the floors or clean up their bushes and get treated at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atwood. Our next speaker is Myra Gatas. Please feel free to turn your video and unmute yourself. Your 1.5 minutes will begin when you start speaking.
Hello, good afternoon, councilors. My name is Myra Gaddis, and I am the chairman of the SBRAC Commission. I'm speaking today as a small business owner in the city of Albuquerque. I own 3 small local independent restaurants, Slate Street Cafe, 66 Acres, and Slate at the Museum. And as you know, the restaurant industry has been hit very hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as a lot of other small businesses. I'm specifically speaking today about R-20-109, which is my understanding is a proposal to increase the cap on the $10 million of CARES funding that has been designated for small businesses and is being distributed by the Economic Department to small businesses through an application process. When this funding was first announced, we were very excited and thrilled to see some help coming to small businesses. However, there was a cap of $10,000 on that funding. And as a small business owner who has received some money, I'm here to tell you that that cap is very, very small, and it's not enough money. And so I was pleasantly surprised and in support of R-20-109 to raise that to $20,000 so that some of us can still receive help. We need help. We need it right now. We can't wait. The federal stimulus packages are on hold. And I wanted to.
Your time is up. Thank you for your comments.
Should have timed that. Thanks. Thank you.
Actually, Myra, hang out just a minute. I know we got some emails from you as well, and Councilor Benton has a follow-up.
Yeah, I was just hoping that, Myra is also on our agenda today for service on the SRAC, and just want to give her a chance to wrap up.
That's the magic word, Ms. Gaddis. Under our rules, a councilor can extend your time, so by all means, go ahead if you can keep it fairly short.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. What I wanted to bring up, the last point, was that the Bernalillo County gave out grants, and they had about $6.5 million of money to spend. They were unable to spend it in their first 2 rounds. They had to introduce a 3rd round to give away the money, and then were they able to do so. And this money has to be spent by the end of the year, or we lose it as a city. So I'd hate for us not to lose those $10 million because of this cap. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Myra. Mr. Moya, any other commenters?
Mr. President, that concludes public comments.
Thank you, councilors, and thank you to those who participated with us this evening. We'll move on to the next sections of our agenda. We have a fairly lengthy section for administration Q&A tonight. And so we want to give counselors the time to do that. And I know we have some directors to respond, but we'll also remind folks, and that includes me tonight, that we want to try to respect everybody's time because we do have some action items and some other folks waiting in our wings for presentations at the end of the agenda. But that said, I'll defer myself to the end and start with Councilor Bassan. You had submitted some questions ahead of time, and so you have the floor first, ma'am. Then we'll go to Councilor Borrego and myself.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few questions. We've been getting many emails. I've been having discussions with other councilors regarding speeding and drag racing, some noise levels. So I wanted to touch base after our meeting last week that we had with certain members of APD and follow up here with council too. So what is the mayor's office doing to reduce speeding, racing, and or drag racing throughout our city?
I see those folks popping up there in what I think is economic development. We always see your little heads. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Mr. President, Councilor Bazan, it's Commander Barker with APD. I'm currently the acting chief of staff. For the record, APD's efforts to reduce speeding and drag racing include looking at our DDAX data, which is a driven approach to crime and traffic safety. We take that data, which provides us information on crime and traffic crashes, and we focus our efforts at those locations when we have a high visibility and traffic enforcement. Additionally, communications, they send us all of the 311 and speeding complaints to the area commands. Each area command addresses those speeding complaints directly, including aggressive driving. We have field briefings at those locations. Speed trailers are also put at those locations, and we collect that data. We provide that data and information to the officers so they can make sure that they're focusing their targeted enforcement during the hours that we are seeing the speeding. Additionally, each area command reaches out to the traffic division. They also do their own TAC plans in these areas of concern. And they are currently working on a TAC plan which will specifically address the 311 complaints that are coming in. We did do a map which shows where these 311 complaints are, and the traffic division is going to start enforcing traffic citations and violations in those areas on a weekly basis, looking at 2 TAC plans a week. We are also working on public service announcements. So we are working with Ms. Sochi Compost Biggs on putting out information to the public on certain areas of crime and things that need to be addressed by our department, and drag racing and speeding is one of those. So we will be working to get that out. And commanders, we just have ongoing meetings right now to address the drag racing, specifically in the downtown area and along Central. I know the west side also has some drag racing that has been reported out by the old jail at the West Side Shelter. Our party intervention team has also responded to those calls. We're very aware of a group that is meeting every Friday night around midnight out there. So that's another way that we're addressing that.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander. I appreciate that very much. I imagine I'm going to come back to you with a couple more questions that I had submitted, but respectfully, I asked, what is the mayor's office doing to advocate for the reduction of speeding throughout our city, drag racing, and these noise problems? I just want to know, how involved is the city administration getting? Because I feel like, I'm going to skip to kind of the end of all of this right now. I feel like people are scared, and we're hearing about it as counselors daily. repeatedly. I imagine the mayor's office is doing so as well, and I know APD is as well. However, crime is not noticeably dropping, and I think that given the discussions we've been having with the other counselors in the last few weeks, while I've been working in conjunction with them and with APD, we recognize that there's a problem, and sometimes it begins with smaller infractions. And I think speeding is something that is becoming a massive problem in our city. And once people learn that they can get away with that, they start to realize they can maybe get away with more and pushing the boundaries. So I would like to know, I feel like I'm learning a lot about what APD is doing, and I recognize that APD is under the umbrella, and we've had our discussions about all of that, but what specifically, is there a campaign that the mayor's office is doing? Will they do? What is going on as far as Mayor Keller and his administration and what he wants to do to help really target the problem that we have with speeding and drag racing throughout our city?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, the mayor's office does have direct communication with our department. I can tell you that we are working together, and they are very concerned as well about the speeding complaints that are coming in. We are, like I stated, provided a 311 mapping system, and we'll continue to work closely with them to make sure that these concerns are addressed. Our department, city councilors, like you stated, and the mayor's office provides those complaints to us, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we follow up and address those concerns.
All right, thank you, Commander. Mr. President, I have a few more. So in speaking of this, my big topic tonight is speeding, right? I think that's clear. So how many traffic officers work in the traffic department of APD currently, and how many traffic officers will be the ideal number to call it fully staffed?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, we currently have 17 motor police officers working in the traffic division, 3 motor sergeants and 1 lieutenant and 1 commander. There was a staffing study that was completed last year, which recommended 36 to 38 officers.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Commander. I definitely look forward to trying to get that fully staffed as soon as we get more cadets graduated from the academy, and we can work on that. My other question was, will you please provide reports for the number of speeding tickets or other related citations? I'm not trying to back myself into a corner. This is regarding speeding in our city. So if someone's getting pulled over for tailgating, or someone's getting pulled over for aggressive driving or speeding that's excessive, you know, my point with this question is to say, until we start seeing I feel like I've been getting a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls from constituents saying, nobody thinks they're going to get pulled over by APD if they're speeding, no matter where they're at. So I think that that's something that I support APD. I know that you guys are busting your tails trying to do everything you can, which is why I think that it's really important we really start figuring out how to get that staffing up. So I'm wondering if we can start getting reports. And I know that Chief Medina had said that we were going to start getting this as well. So I think that's great to be in collaboration. But for now, how many speeding tickets or related speeding racing citations were issued in October, September, and August this year?
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, the information provided to me by the traffic division is that speeding citations by the Albuquerque Police Department for August were 753, September 839, and October 750. Citations for following too closely for August, 1, September 12, and October 15. Careless driving citations for August, 41, September 39, October 66, and reckless driving for August is 10, September 13, and October 14. It should be noted that this information does not include handwritten citations. Most of our citations are utilized and done on the track system right now, but if that system were to go down, officers would handwrite citations, so that does not include those citations.
Awesome. Thank you, Commander. I think this is going to be really good at having some tangible, unfortunately, I'm convinced that we're going to have to see these numbers start escalating before we start seeing them decrease and start seeing that culture shift. And I'm looking forward to being able to do what I can to help out with that. How many fatal crashes did we have this year so far?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, we have had 62 fatal accidents year to date.
And how many did we have up to this point last year?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, we had 75.
Is there a way to know if these crashes were fatal because of speeding and racing? And if so, how many would that be?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, the traffic division informed me that the most accurate way for them to know if these crashes were caused by speeding is going to be getting the data from the black box in vehicles. It provides the speed of the vehicle at the time of the crash. They can also use witness statements or surveillance. This calendar year, we have 5 crashes to date that we can confirm were a result of speeding.
Thank you. And I learned something new. I didn't know there was a black box in a car, like as in an airplane. So thank you. Okay, so one more thing, Mr. President. And I'm curious because I'm looking at the APD Facebook page, not this minute, obviously, but I have been checking it out. And there is a post on there, and I took a screenshot of it today that's talking about the anti-crime operations that are happening here in Albuquerque. And I'm wondering, I think it's great. I think I'm really excited about it, but I'm wondering what exactly is the anti-crime operation and who's involved in it? Which officers are we using?
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, the anti-crime operations is TAC plan, so to speak, that Chief Medina has had our units doing on a weekly basis right now. We involve all the divisions. That includes the traffic division. We have Field Services Bureau, the property response teams that are involved in that, as well as detectives from CIB, including our impact and vice detectives. And essentially they are going out and enforcing with the zero tolerance any violations that they see, and traffic is very much involved in those operations.
Okay, thank you, Commander. I just, that was gonna be my next question too, is if traffic's involved in this. So thank you. Again, I'm glad that we're seeing enforcement, and I just wanna make sure to tell the public and the rest of the council and everybody that, I'm a firm believer that if you do something wrong, there should be a consequence for your action. If you break a law, there should be a consequence for that. Enforcement is involved. I don't think this is about making sure that we target a specific population. I think that, especially when it comes to speeding, it's very clear if you're speeding, and especially if it's excessive, then we need to have enforcement for that and consequences. Otherwise, lessons will not be learned, and crime, I believe, will continue to increase, which is the exact opposite of what I'm hearing from everybody. We all want it to minimize. So I'm thinking this is a really good way that we need to start working together to prioritize reducing that, and making sure that we start sending a message to the public that if you're speeding, today might be the day that you might get caught. So maybe think twice about it. So I appreciate you answering these questions. And I look forward to not getting a speeding ticket, but seeing others do it.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Benton, Councilor Jones, then myself, and then we'll move on to Councilor Brago's questions. So Councilor Benton first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, and just to follow along from Councilor Bassan's questions, I just wanted to thank Commander Barker for meeting with me and DC Smathers about this issue and the continuing discussions that we're having. And I want to go ahead and make my pitch for another aspect of this. With speed, typically comes noise, and there's a lot of really difficult noise on many of our corridors due to the same activity. And it's not all racing, it's not all speed, but it does have to do with a kind of a look at me attitude, and the failure to use factory mufflers, which we actually have a noise ordinance against that. I sponsored that by request in 2009. As recommended by Mayor Chavez at the time. And at the time we were talking about only for downtown, because it was a problem downtown where you got constricted streets with buildings right up against the street and the echoes and so forth of really loud motor vehicles. But at the same time, the other councilors said, no, we want this citywide. We don't want it just downtown. And it is a public, I would say it's a public health issue, because when you can't sleep, it's hard to be healthy. I would say that it is a quality of life issue, certainly for anyone who lives near these corridors. And And as a matter of public policy, the city supports revitalization of these corridors, including residential. And that's not going to be viable unless we tackle the noise issue as well as the speeding issue. So I want to thank Commander Barker for her work on this. And I think we're all in this together. I don't know whether I'm interested in what the mayor might think about this, but I think we all need to take it very seriously.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is quite obviously from our response is a major issue throughout the city. I don't think any area of this, I don't believe there's any area of the city that isn't affected by this. But one of the things that I see every time I'm on the road, there are a couple streets that I travel more often than others. So the speed limit is 40 miles an hour. And there are cars all time of the day. We're not talking nighttime traffic, which is also a big issue, but that people are passing other cars at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. And obviously racing with a car that looks a little more racy or a better car than theirs, and it never stops. And I've never, in the last 8 to 9 months, seen any kind of an officer or a radar situation or any kind of a traffic stop anywhere along these. And right now, with the schools out, it's maybe not quite as dangerous, but I go on a street all the time that has student drivers or drivers driving to school who are at great risk from these drivers, the speeders who come right up behind them and zip around them and zip in front of them and vice versa. And I would like to see, and Commander Barker, thank you very much, but I would like to see a plan for how we're going to address the streets. And I think every councilor here can point out the major streets. There are 2 major streets in the district that I represent that day and night, drag racing, speeding, reckless driving, and put other people at risk. And I would really like to see some kind of a plan citywide. Obviously, I'm more interested in the couple or 4 streets that affect my district, but we get constant calls, emails, texts from community members who are afraid to go out on the streets now because of the speeding. So I would like to see a plan that we could see. I would like to see a plan for us to see so we can report to the people who are absolutely at the end of their wits' end, as we used to say, about what's going on. So thank you. I know it's possible to do this. I know that police have ways to doing this, and we'd like to in the past, we have put together special funds to do chief's overtime to take care of these things and get more officers on the street to handle it. I would like to say on behalf of, I'm sure, the other councilors, that we would be more than willing to do what it takes to try to stop and minimize this stuff in our city. So thank you, councilors, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor Pena, I see you, and then I'll go back to myself to close this round, and then we'll move on to Councilor Berger. Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, Councilor Bassan, for bringing up some of those concerns. As you know, a couple meetings back, I talked about Erica Chavez, who is a mother of 3 who was recently killed as a result of excessive speed over here on 98th and Tower, Unser and Tower, I'm sorry. And knowing that, I've heard from several counselors, I actually used Councilor Jones as an example. I've heard her talking numerous times about speeding in her district. And so as a result, we've put together a kind of a little few meetings with Councilor Benton, Councilor Sena, Councilor Bassan, and myself to talk about it. And, I'd love to invite the administration to participate if they'd like to. Because we did talk to Chief Medina and Commander Rivera and Smathers, as Councilor Benton discussed, just to talk about how we address it, because it's kind of at the crisis level in our communities. I don't know what the reasons are, but this is probably, like I've said before, one of the #1 calls that I get in my district. And I think collectively, we've talked about enforcement, how important that is. I think Councillor Bassan was talking to that. And then we talked about, looking at any ordinances that we have that would need to be addressed. And then just as important is education in our community. And, I mentioned this as well. My policy analyst, Rachel, we talked about a campaign that we could use, and she came up with a name that I thought was kind of important. And it was that speeding has a name, right? And obviously that name of Erica Chavez is attached to that. So, I look forward to the continued dialogue. I know Councillor Benton is promoting the noise part of it, which I agree. I think it's an important part of it as well. But if the administration's interested in really working with us to tackle this, I'd be more than happy to include you guys as part of this discussion, because we really need to get a handle of it on our city. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Let me bring this one to a close. Commander, thank you, and congrats on your new position. And thanks for working with us to try to work on this issue. It's one that's certainly been around for a long time, as you know, and as we all know. I want to add to your list and just remind us, if you would, Commander, one of the challenges we've had in our district has been the area around Mesa del Sol. It's one that on Sundays generates a whole lot of this kind of traffic, in part because our traffic unit usually doesn't work on Sunday. And the Sheriff's Department has taken to pushing the folks to the city side of the street. And then when APD shows up, to pushing them to the county side of the street. There was a time when we had some cooperation on that. And in fact, I think I gave some, as Councilor Jones mentioned, I gave some discretionary funds for Chiefs overtime for a project there. But it'd be great to revisit it. And I was also reminded, if you would, I heard your list, and I think in our first meeting in September, we discussed this topic and asked the traffic commander at the time to include lead and coal, one of our urban thoroughfares that affects districts like Councilor Benton's and mine, in that work. It was in part because the mayor's office was going to do a speed study there. They directed that elsewhere, but the APD had committed under the old administration to helping to do a neighborhood TAC plan there 1 or 2 days last month, and we didn't see that yet. But if you'd help us follow up on that request as well. I know that's been around for about 6 weeks, and we'd love to give the neighborhood some update. I know they won't miss it when they see all the 100 tickets go out. I see the SIG alerts when they're writing 90 and 100 citations a day. But if you could follow up on those 2 locations as well for your list and let us know, it'd be great to have that information. So, Commander, I know we took a lot of your time and just had a lot thrown at you, but I want to give you the last word here before we move on to some other items. And then I see the mayor's conference room. But Commander, and then we'll go upstairs.
Mr. Davis and councilors, or I'm sorry, Mr. President and councilors, we will follow up on those. Mr. President, I just want to let you know that I do know Commander Yada in the Southeast Area Command is, he has speed trailers set up at Lead and Coal, and his officers are actively working that area. Councilors, we are very much aware of the concern of traffic and aggressive driving, and we are very interested in working together as a community and with each of you so that we can address those. Please feel free to reach out to me with any other concerns or anything else that I can follow up on.
Thanks, Commander. Last word goes to the mayor's conference room upstairs.
Mr. President and members of the council, we appreciate this conversation. As the commander just talked about, we are very interested in working with each and every one of you. Councilor Pena, please let us know when your next meeting is, and we'll make sure we have someone from either APD or the administration join you in that conversation. And Councilor Benton, as it relates to the noise issues, we have environmental health and the planning department as we speak, exploring what other cities are doing, looking at some of the opportunities we have as it relates to the issues with noise. And we hope to have something to the council very soon to begin to deal with the issue that you raised, which is the noise that's occurring in our community along with the speeding. So, but appreciate the councilors' interest in both of these issues, and we stand ready to work with you all to get some things done. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mr. Rao. And councilors, that concludes Councilor Bassan's questions. We'll move to Councilor Borrego and then myself, and then open the floor for any last minute, and then we'll move on to action items. Councilor Borrego.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the counselors that are bringing up the issue about noise and speed, because I'm on the phone with our commander, Cecily Barker, probably every week regarding Paseo del Norte and Unser and golf course. And, you know, we have some pretty major straightaways on the west side over here that don't have a lot of traffic lights, like Unser and Paseo. So I ditto on that. And I just want to thank our commander, Cecily Baker, because she is wonderful to work with, and you guys cannot have her. That's the first thing I have to say. Actually, she's just, she's a sweetheart. She's professional. She is, I can't say enough about her. She's just a wonderful person. And I'm happy to have her in my district. And that's why I joke that you can't have her. But anyway, my questions are related to the film industry. And I don't know if we have anyone from economic development in the room. I sent
Director Harmeo just joined us, Counselor.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. So my first question is, how has Albuquerque's film industry performed during the time of COVID? And are you seeing any trends regarding that?
Mr. President and Councilor Borrego, the Albuquerque Film Office has only recently begun issuing permits. Filming recommenced in early October. So far, we have had one public service announcement, 2 commercial ads, 4 feature films that have requested permitting. Plus, there are 3 TV series prepping on sound stages in Albuquerque to begin filming in November. And as far as if we're seeing a trend, there really is not enough data yet to indicate a trend. Once we have reached the end of Q4, we certainly will have more information available to then track where the industry is heading. But all indicators, of course, barring further restrictions from surging COVID cases, point to Albuquerque being poised to see an uptick in production going into 2021. There were several projects slated that have been postponed filming until Q1 and Q2 of next year.
Thank you. The sun is coming through my window, so I'm having a hard time seeing right here. So the next question that I have, and I'll be interested in following those trends when you do have that information, because I think it's, you know, we've approved a lot of LEDA money and a lot of contracts with some of our bigger film industry. So it'd be interesting to see, you know, how this is going to affect that, that whole industry, I guess. So my second question is regarding the contracts that we put in place. And I know that we structured some of our contracts that they had to produce a certain amount of jobs and so on. And I'm just wondering how our legal department maybe is dealing with that, because obviously this last year has been really difficult. And, you know, I'm just wondering, are we giving them extensions to their contracts? Are we, are there amendments that are having to take place regarding the changes that we're seeing with COVID? And I know, you know, there may be some capacity limitations, or even I dare I say, I hope not any closures. But I certainly would like to know how the city is going to proceed, because we had certain timelines and we had certain goals that they had to meet in order to receive the funding that we allocated.
Mr. President and Councilor Borrego, we have not had to date amend any of the current project participation agreements. Happy to keep you updated. Again, we are seeing an uptick in phone calls from production companies in our film office. But if we do happen to receive a request for amendment to any current project participation agreement, we'll be happy to share that with you immediately. But as of right now, we've not, none of those requests have come through.
If you could just keep us posted on that, thank you. I'm going to have to close my shade here.
Thanks, Councilor Borrego. I have one quick question for the planning department, and then we'll move on to our action items. I think Director Williams and Mr. Real are around. And so, Director, I know you had a chance to look into this earlier today, but let me lay the groundwork just for folks who are following along. It's been an ongoing issue, ongoing questions from some of the neighborhoods in Southeast, particularly in my district, regarding the appropriateness of some community residential facilities and how the planning department is permitting those. And so the council had an update in the IDO to address those issues to make it more clear how to do so. But it's my understanding that I know the planning department's website was not updated until perhaps today regarding the rules, but I'm looking for some information about how the planning department is enforcing those CRF rules in terms of density, capacity, and are we appropriately regulating and permitting them to meet the IDO standards that the neighborhoods worked so hard for over the last couple of years.
Mr. President, thank you for your question. Yes, sir, you're correct that the recent amendments to the IDO, which were passed by the council in September, went into effect today. And so the past several weeks and this weekend, staff was working to update various forms of communication, which included, as it relates to community residential facilities and group homes, to update the code enforcement website to reflect those changes. I'm also aware that there have been significant discussions between our code enforcement division manager, our deputy director that serves as the zoning enforcement officer, the CEO, and city legal to ensure that the changes that were made can be fairly applied and can be done so in a manner that's predictable and reasonable. I'm confident based on those discussions that staff members will be able to enforce those updated standards and meet the letter of the law, while also adhering to the constitutional protections that people have as it relates to the governing or to the regulatory aspects of group homes and community residential facilities, and the distinction between those and what's defined as a family under the IDO.
Thank you, Director. I appreciate it. And I know this is sort of a down in the weeds sort of issue. And I know our office has been trying to get some information from your office for quite some time. I appreciate that. And it's good to hear that that staff are being trained and we'll be enforcing those appropriately. I know our neighborhoods that have some concerns about just being sure that whether it's those CRFs or those group homes or other social support services like our potential gateway centers coming, that the city will ensure that those are done equitably and we'll be enforcing those rules. So thank you for that. And we'll be looking to see how that works out. But thanks for making the time and for doing that work and for getting us that update today. Councilor Benton and Councilor Pena on this question.
Separate question, unless you want to wrap it up anymore, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Councilor Benton, get us started, and then we'll go to Councilor Pena for anything else.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just quickly, Councilor Borrego and I have been discussing this for a while now. I think we share a concern about enforcement of public health orders involving masking in certain public situations. I mean, I know that it's pretty broad language, but there's some situations in which it seems to me that it's pretty egregious violation of public health orders of people in public who are not wearing masks. For instance, I had a utility contractor working in a public right-of-way in my neighborhood where many of the workers were not wearing masks. People in the neighborhood are having to walk past them on sidewalks and so forth. I know this may be a unexpected question, so I apologize, but to the administration, what are we doing with regard to enforcement of mask orders? And I know when we started out with the epidemic early on, there was, basically the message, the public message, both here at the city and at the state level was, look, we have these, we really, really want you to do it, but we're really not going to fine you or pull you over for not doing it or something. And I really, given where we are right now with the pandemic and the uptick, I'm concerned about it. I wonder if the council ought to be taking this on. I think if we could, rather than have a protracted discussion about it tonight, I'm sure Councilor Borrego and I would be happy to meet with the administration and see what they're thinking about this. But we're both kind of, at our wits' end of seeing bad behavior with regard to that.
Sure.
We're on mute. Let me put it.
Hi, can you hear me, Council President Davis? Okay, hi, this is Sarita Nair. So we have been extremely active, if you're speaking just generally about PHO, public health order compliance, and getting the mask order out there. We've been extremely active. I think we're the only municipality that has taken as much proactive work as we have. Just in the past week, we've had 239 compliance interactions, 180 warnings and notices of violation. During our sweep the week before, we also had way bigger numbers, as well as 7 APD citations. We have the Fire Marshal's Office, Code Enforcement, Environmental Health, and APD all working on this together. Also over the weekend, APD responded to 18 complaints for parties that violated the mass gathering order and issued 12 notices of violation. They returned an hour later and all of the gatherings had come into compliance. The Fire Marshal's Office made visits to 47 grocery stores and 11 restaurants, televising sports to ensure compliance. Over the last 7 days, there have been 419 compliance interactions and warnings with businesses and individuals. And that's just a week. So we have the cumulative numbers as well. I think we are at 1,716 complaints, 6,292 compliance interactions, 740 warnings, and 11 citations since our active enforcement began with that order that I think came out in April or May. So our compliance teams are out there every day working on mask enforcement, mass gathering enforcement. We always lead with education. We always offer masks to people who don't have them, so we're not creating any equity issues. And then we try to do a sweep after to make sure that anybody we've just given a notice to or a warning to has actually come into compliance. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you. Thank you, CEO Nair. That's good to hear that we're taking it that seriously. And we're not in Albuquerque, we're not inclined to be ratting out our neighbors or our fellow citizens, but I mean, people should call, I'm assuming 311 or 242 cops, I would imagine, if there's a big activity of some kind that clearly seems to violate the gathering orders, correct?
Council President Davis, Councilor Benton, 311 is the best alternative because they will route that to the appropriate department. If it's a restaurant or bar, they'll take that to environmental health. Environmental health also has an open line with both the Environment Department that looks at OSHA violations and the Department of Health. So 311 is your best alternative for mask or mass gathering violations that an average person observes.
Thank you, Ms. Nair. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Pena, then Councilor Borrego, and then we'll try to close our Q&A. Councilor
Thank you, Mr. President. Since you asked the question about the group homes, I was just wondering if Director Williams could just kind of briefly state what some of the new regulations are on the IDO for group homes. And then if you can just kind of send me some more information on it, outside of this meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure, and I'll get Mr. Director Williams back, but actually Ms. Morris in our office has been working with the planning department on how to get those implemented, and she has a good bit of information, and I was asking tonight because she hadn't been able to get what she needed for her work. So we'll be sure Ms. Morris sends you that. But Director Williams, if you could respond on that side.
Mr. President, thank you. Councilor Pena, if I can, let me get you some additional information first thing tomorrow on this. I've had staff that's been working on this in conjunction with Ms. Morris, and they would certainly be more versed. I have information here, but I'm not exactly sure what changed, what was removed, or what's been added.
Okay, Mr. President, thank you, Director Williams. I just was asking, just because, as you know, I work with the developmentally disabled community, and as a result of them, you know, closing down the institutions, one of the things that they wanted to assure, so I just want to make sure that their rights aren't being violated as part of this, is that, you know, they operate under strict rules, but, you know, I'm just a little concerned, I guess I didn't realize this, but I'm just a little concerned knowing that, you know, people are maybe scrutinized for having a group home with people who have developmental disabilities. And just, anyway, I can see Petra turn her monitor video on, so she might want to add something to that.
Thanks. Ms. Morris, welcome in.
Good evening, Mr. President, Councilor Pena. Yes, I can certainly send you an email that updates all that tomorrow, but just in general, the updates are to make sure that the IDO is in compliance with the Fair Housing Act. And we have two categories in the IDO, the community residential facilities. So those are all the facilities for those who are considered a protected class. So that would be folks with a developmental disability or a disability of any kind, in fact. And then group homes, which is for anyone who's not a protected class. So anyone who's not covered by the Fair Housing Act. But I'll send you a much more extensive email kind of explaining that. But we brought ourselves kind of up to date and with the Fair Housing Act and with the 2019 update.
Thank you, Petra. Just a huge red flag for me. So when, you know, I just don't want neighbors to come out and start, you know, being concerned about people who are just trying to live normal lives. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Pena. Agreed. And then thanks for working on that. I'd love to work on it with you if we need to revisit it. But I think it's one that we're trying to just be sure we're in compliance with the federal law as well. Councilor Borrego, you have another question?
Just really quick, Counselor, I'd like to just ask Ms. Nair to send Counselor Benton and I those numbers that she read regarding the mask enforcement. Just today, I received in my district, Mariposa Park. And I just want to thank Dave Simon for acting so quickly. He's already on it. But, you know, our parks, you know, they're kind of a blessed area for us to walk in and just kind of get some fresh air, but we can't violate our mask orders in those sacred spaces because it's going to cause problems. So I just encourage people to wear their masks in our parks. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Seeing no other discussion, councilors, we'll move on to our final actions. But before we do that, just for housekeeping, here's what we're thinking about this evening. If we stay on track based on the number of amendments and items we have up for this evening, I don't think we have a terribly long agenda. And so we've received some comment from councilors and the administration that maybe and staff who are here with me, that we ought to maybe just try to work through this agenda this evening, push straight through. And so we're going to try to do that this evening. I think that will not be too hard for us to do by a reasonable hour. So if you need a break and need to step away personally, please just do that. Just let us know and we'll hold things for you. But if for some reason you feel like we do need a dinner break here in a little bit, if you would please let one of the staff in our office know and they'll let me know, and we'll do that if we need it. But otherwise, I think we'll get through this a little sooner than normal. And so we're going to try to do that if we all keep our conversations to the minimum and to those necessary. But to get us started, our Vice President has a motion regarding the journal.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I move approval of the October 19th journal.
Thank you. I see a number of seconds. I'll take Councilor Sinas this time, and I'll ask the clerk to call the vote.
Councilor Bassan?
Yes.
Councilor Benton?
Yes.
Councilor Borrego?
Yes.
Councilor Gibson?
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilors, we're on to communications and introductions, and there are a number of changes to the letter of introduction this evening. I'll start with two that are housekeeping, then we'll move to Councilor Sena and Councilor Borrego. First, I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of placing EC 191 on tonight's agenda for action. EC 191 is supplemental to EC 19486, the mayor's recommendation of award for personnel hearing officers. We need 2/3 of councilors present. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. Seeing no other discussion, Madam, I'm sorry. Seeing no other discussion, Madam Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Councilors, next up, I would move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of placing OC 15 on tonight's agenda for action. OC 15 is the appointment of Victor Griego to the Accountability and Government Oversight Committee. As you'll remember, one of our candidates withdrew their consideration, and so this would replace that candidate that was removed at a recent meeting. Do we have a second? Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilors, any discussion? And I see none, and so I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
9-0, thank you.
Councilor Sena, I believe you have a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of placing R109 on tonight's agenda for action. R109 is amending the aggregate maximum amount of economic relief grants provided to small and local for-profit organizations negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic through the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act.
Thank you, Councilor Sena. I see Councilor Benton has offered a second, and I have a question if there's no other. Would the sponsor allow me to ask a quick question? Councilor, I wonder if I realized the first round of applications that I understand completed on Friday, we had just under 600 applicants. There may be clearly there will be additional dollars available, but I know a second round is open next week. I wonder if the sponsor would be willing to just have this held over until the meeting on the 16th, so those two rounds can complete and we would know how much money would be available. And if that would be a better way to manage those dollars. But in other words, I think I prefer us just do a normal holdover instead of immediate action, but I would yield to the sponsor to see why she wanted to do it.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. I want this for immediate action as it would apply for the second and third round. And of course, those that did apply for the first round that didn't qualify because they met the aggregate amount, they would just be moved into the queue further. And I know that Director Jaramillo is here with us to address some of those concerns, but I would want this for immediate action just so that the second and third rounds can have that same application.
Thank you, Councilor. So I think we're having further discussion on this. I think we would allow Director Jaramillo to come in if she'd like to at the councilor's request. Director, are you still with us?
Can you hear me? You can't see my video, but I am.
We can hear you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
And
Thank you, Mr.
Director, I'm sorry, Director, did you hear the question? We were just asking a little bit about the proper timing about whether this is more appropriate at the 16th once we have the first two rounds.
Thank you, Mr. President and Councilor Sena. We would like to request that an amendment be approved for immediate action. We are concerned that second and third round would be too difficult for us to deploy the funding. Again, just a reminder that there is increased risk of not being able to get the money out the door in time for that December 30th deadline. And my department really does not have that capacity currently. And so we would request the amendment to be approved for immediate action, if at all possible.
Thank you, Director. I saw a question from Councilor Bassan, and then we'll go back to Councilor Sena to respond to both, if that's okay. Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to refrain from commentary until we decided if this was going to go ahead and move for discussion further later on, but I would rather, as the sponsor of the original bill, this was a metric provided by the Economic Development Department. This is how it started. And I think it's important that council knows and the public knows that when this was developed, Ms. Director Jaramillo, it's nice to see you. I haven't heard back since last week when I called you either to answer some of these questions, but the metric that was provided to us was when I asked how much money should we be asking for small business relief using the CARES funding. And I also made sure to include in that the metric that is given to me needs to not just be a round number. I want to know what it's for. Well, I was told, can you hear me? It looks like my yellow box went off. I was told that based off of the number of micro grants that was not approved because the funding ran out, there was still approximately 1,400 businesses that were affected but did not receive the grant funding. So if we were to up the $5,000 amount from those micro grants, which was determined to be a very minimal amount, we wanted to give a little bit more funding. $10,000 was the desire, which would therefore help 1,000 businesses. These businesses would have to be the 50 employees or less. And we were reassured, Councilor Jones and I were reassured multiple times that as much as it would take a lot of work, 1,000 businesses was the amount that economic development was prepared to deliver money to. We also were approached by the administration to ask us before this got rolled out if we would support raising the cap to $20,000. At which point, Councilor Jones and I said, yes, we would support that after we waited for the first round or two. So I want to make sure that this is where the backstory is necessary. If we can just have a little bit more time to see how many applications come through, we can reevaluate if we need to continue on or not.
Thank you. And before I do that, Councilor Gibson wants to raise a point of order, which takes precedent. Then we'll go back to the sponsor and to the director. Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And councilors, in order to have this conversation, we have to have a motion on the floor. And so we've kind of put the cart before the horse. I think if we're going to discuss this, let's do this the right way. Let's make a motion run in the agenda.
Councilor Gibson, I appreciate that. We do actually have a motion on the floor. Councilor Sinha has a motion for the suspension of the rules to put this item on for immediate action. That was seconded by Councilor Benton. And so the discussion right now is about whether it's appropriate to do this for immediate action this evening or through regular order. So for the moment, I think the conversation is focused appropriately there. I thank you for reminding us to keep it there. I want to give Director Jaramillo was invoked, so I want to give her a chance to respond, and then we'll go back to the sponsor, Councilor Sinha.
Mr. President and Councilor Bassan, thank you for allowing me the opportunity. And Councilor Bassan, I do understand that when you and Councilor Jones were creating the program, and again, give both Councilor Bassan and Councilor Jones the credit for allowing the $10 million to be granted to businesses. But however, I do understand that it was a staff conversation between city staff, council staff and economic development staff is where that $10,000 amount came from. And once we did deploy and announce the program, we learned immediately. I received personally, but in probably over 25 phone calls directly, but my department has received over 100 calls from businesses that were concerned immediately. And the problem with the aggregate amount as it exists today, which we learned once we deployed this round of funding, that having to cross-reference all grant programs, we truly don't have the capacity. And smaller grants offered by the city really are not readily, citywide, meaning are not readily available or published. We do not have a list from Bernalillo County. It's just made that very difficult for us to cross-reference all grant programs. And again, the concern, increased risk, and that concern of not being able to get the money out the door in time for that December 30th deadline is really what we're struggling with as a department.
Thank you, Director. And I think that makes sense, but I don't think there's any issue that we know we'll be in around 3 by that time anyway. And so it seems to me that it's more appropriate to know what kind of money we have available. But I'll close my question there, give it back to the sponsor for Councilor Senna to close on the motion for immediate action on R109.
Thank you for that, Mr. President, and then thank you, Director Jaramillo. I want to note that if we don't act on this today, over 100, I think it was 117 businesses will get a letter that they were disqualified. If we were to open this round again, that means that we're going through this process and revisiting this, then we would have to go back and tell them, actually, you're going to have to reapply again later as it comes available. And what's urgent about, with all of our COVID response, we always have been voting it for immediate action. And I believe that this follows that line. I believe it's urgent that we vote and act on this today because we need to go through that second and third round. And again, when we talk about this, hopefully today and act on it today, that it's based on need, that the first, second, and third round will go through, but those that would meet the aggregate amount that was capped off still gets to get put back into the queue where they're put in a system so that they don't have to reapply. They don't get these disqualification letters so that they wouldn't be discouraged to act on it later. Because if they're given a letter of disqualification, I don't know if they'll be encouraged to reapply for it later on when we say that actually we do have the funding and we're going to redo this as a fourth round, just like the county did. So I'm just posing that as that why we need to act on this today and why it's so urgent to pass this as well.
Okay. Councilor Jones, we've been, that was a close, but we've been allowing councilors to jump in if they could because of the digital right. So we'll give you a second if you want to do that, but that will allow Councilor Senna to respond as a new close as well. And now we have Councilor Borrego reminding councilors this has to be on the motion for immediate action. Councilor Jones, then Councilor Borrego, then we're back to Councilor Senna.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I appreciate Councilor Senna's passion. But if we have thousands, I'm sure, who need help. And $10,000 is a big help. To jump immediately to 20, we put ourselves in a position where people have already received numbers and help will go ahead of the people who don't have any yet. If we go the way this was originally planned, we will be able to help all of the people. There will be second and third rounds, and everyone will get a chance at this. I think we need to help as many of the businesses as we possibly can, and that means we need to go through the process and have them apply the way this was originally set out. So I'm sorry, Councilor Senna, I cannot support your request.
Councilor Borrego.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the, just to complicate things a little more, one of the emails that I received today from some of my constituents are with regard to amending it to include nonprofits now. And I think that, we approved something at our last meeting and we started to move forward, and now we're changing the rules in the middle of the game. And it's very confusing to do that to businesses. So for that reason, I'm not even sure how I'm going to respond to the nonprofits because they're asking why aren't they included in this? So I think we approved something at our last meeting and we should move forward with it. If we can defer for 2 weeks, I think we can still, address some of these other issues. And I'm going to be supporting a deferral.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego. And as promised, seeing no other comments, let me just say I'll close mine and then go back to the sponsor. We'll be done. On the motion for immediate action, I support raising the cap and allowing businesses who received an early grant to reapply once we know that everybody who's had a first opportunity to do so. But like Councilor Borrego, I received some comments from businesses in the Nob Hill and International District, two in particular, who learned about it in the paper on Sunday after the applications had closed, and they were not eligible originally for some of the early grants because they were not able to operate outdoors. For example, a barber shop called me, for example. They employ 2 people, but weren't eligible originally because they couldn't use the city money to operate outside, just learned about it. And so I think the point was to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to participate. We outlined the Economic Development Department outlined 3 rounds of funding. We've only completed 1, and I think it would be prudent to complete the second before doing so. But I understand the sponsor's need, and I think that's why we'll have this debate on this motion. And so we'll be back to the sponsor to close for a second time if there's any other comment, and then we'll go to the vote on the motion for immediate action.
Well, I want to note that this didn't come out of nowhere, that this came from the concerns of many of the businesses that went through the process through round 1, and hearing that many of them wouldn't even get to apply, or that through even the grassroots level of even meeting with some of the AmeriCorps volunteers that went to businesses, that we even had town halls to do this translated in Spanish and Vietnamese. This was a response to the concerns and to the problems of implementing it through the first round. And so this was a solution to that, and hoping that we can mitigate the issues that businesses were facing and streamline the process through round 2 and round 3. So that's why I urge for immediate action. And with that, I'll close.
Thank you, Councilor. As a reminder for those following along at home, 2/3 of councilors present must vote in the affirmative in order to place the item on tonight's agenda for action. Madam Clerk, would you call the vote, please?
Councillor Bassan.
No.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
No.
Councillor Gibson.
No.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
No.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Senna.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
No.
That fails on a 4 to 5 vote.
Thank you. And councilors, as a reminder, per our rules, this item will automatically be referred to our Finance and Government Operations Committee, which meets next Monday. If the Finance and Government Operations Committee passes it and votes unanimously for immediate action, it would be on the agenda on the November 16th agenda for the full council. Next up, Councilor Borrego, R111.
Thank you, Mr. President. R111, I move that the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing R111 and placing it on the November 16th council agenda for action. R111 is extending the council's appreciation for the professionalism of the city of Albuquerque's employees in addressing the complex challenges they're encountering in their positions, acknowledging the efforts of city employees to obtain and maintain their professional reputations, appointing a task force to identify methods to improve and expand opportunities for city employees to obtain and maintain certifications and degrees, and requiring a final report to the city council. And basically what this does is it supports employees' efforts during COVID and beyond to obtain their professional requirements. And that includes degreed and certifications, and also looks at possibilities for training for future opportunities for our employees and appreciating them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego. The motion on the floor is for late introduction and place on the November 16th council agenda. Councilors, is there a second? Councilor Senna, thank you for the second. Councilors, any discussion on the motion for the place it on the November 16th council agenda? Councilor.
Excuse me, if this wasn't approved for the November 16th, then where would it go after? What's the alternative, please?
I'm going to actually ask the clerk to explain, but it'll go through the normal process of committee and then depending on committee action. Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, Councilor Bassan, actually, given that the motion is for late introduction, if the motion fails, then this matter could simply be introduced through the normal process at a subsequent council meeting. It's different than the motion for immediate action that we were just considering.
So Madam Clerk, to clarify, if motion fails tonight, it'll be on the letter of introduction for the meeting on the 16th, and then it would go through the normal committee process.
Mr. President,
Correct. Thank you. Councilor Borrego.
can I just inform that the council at this point, there's not a fiscal impact regarding this bill. The task force would be recommending any fiscal impact. So that's why I have it for immediate action.
And just to clarify, Councilor, I think this is not for immediate action, but just for late introduction and hold over to the next meeting. So it would bypass the committee process.
Right.
Okay, councilors, any other discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilor Bassan,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Gibson,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor Jones,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Senna,
Yes.
Councilor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. Councilor Benton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the rules be suspended for the purpose of introducing R112 and placing it on the November 16th council agenda for final action. R112 is approving the Transit Department's 2020 Title VI program for submission to the Federal Transit Administration.
And I'll second that motion along with Councilor Bassan. Councilors, any discussion on the motion? Seeing no others, Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Councilor Bassan,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Gibson, Councilor Gibson,
Sorry.
thank you. Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor Jones,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Senna,
Yes.
Councilor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. Councilors, are there any other changes to the letter of introduction? I see none, and so I'm going to ask Madam Vice President if she has a motion.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I will move the approval of the letter of introduction.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Borrego has offered a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilor Bassan,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Gibson,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor Jones,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Senna,
Yes.
Councilor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, councilors. Moving on to reports of committees. Councilor Senna.
The Public Safety Committee met on Tuesday, October 27th, and reports out the following item. In the matter of EC 185, that the receipt be noted. I make a motion to accept the committee report.
I'll second that motion, and so we'll use Councilor Bassan second. Thank you, ma'am. Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk.
Councilor Bassan,
Yes.
Councilor Benton,
Yes.
Councilor Borrego,
Yes.
Councilor Gibson,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Councilor Jones,
Yes.
Councilor Pena,
Yes.
Councilor Senna,
Yes.
Councilor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. Councilors, are there any other deferrals or withdrawals from tonight's agenda? Going once and twice, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's consent agenda? Going once? Going twice, seeing none. For those individuals on tonight's consent agenda who are being appointed to serve on a board or commission and you're watching from home, thank you. We hope one day to have you in person and say thank you. But until then, we appreciate your willingness to serve our city. On a personal note, I just want to acknowledge and say thank you to one item regarding one item on consent, both to Mr. Padilla and Economic Development in the Mayor's Office, Economic Development Department, and Mr. Ferran in our office, along with Ms. Yara, for working so hard for the $500,000 fund to support small business is on, particularly along Central Avenue with the new marketing program. It was one that was originally conceived pre-COVID, but working with the administration, we recognize the need to get this out more quickly. And so we hope that this is coming just in time for the holiday season when businesses certainly need to help. So I appreciate them doing that. And it's been a lot of work by those folks to do it. So seeing no other discussion, Madam Vice President, I think you have a motion.
Yes, I do. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Madam Clerk.
Councillor Bassan,
Yes.
Councillor Benton,
Yes.
Councillor Borrego,
Yes.
Councillor Gibson,
Yes.
Councillor Harris,
Yes.
Councillor Jones,
Yes.
Councillor Pena,
Yes.
Councillor Senna,
Yes.
Councillor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you all. Announcements, Councillor Gibson and Councillor Senna.
Thank you, Mr. President. There will be a Finance and Government Operations Committee meeting on Monday, November 9th at 3 p.m. via Zoom video conference.
Councillor Senna.
There will be a Public Safety Committee meeting on Tuesday, November 10th at 3 p.m. via Zoom video conference.
Thank you. Councilors, any other announcements? I don't see any, and so we'll move on to approvals. First up will be EC 144, the mayor's recommendation of award to the New Mexico Biopark Society for biopark admissions. I move approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I see a number. I heard Councilor Gibson. I'll take her as well. Councilors, are there any other discussion on this item? I know the administration is prepared to answer, and if we have any. And I understand the administration. Go ahead, Councilor Benton. You were going to go where I was going. Councilor Benton, would you check your mic on your end? We see you, but can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Couple of things. Well, first, I wanted to ask about the outcome of, we deferred this to allow discussions between the union representatives and the administration.
Director Sanchez, I think I see you there.
Thank you, President Davis. Councilor Benton, yes, we've had really productive conversations with the union. We've actually met twice. We have an agreement in place. And we're actually working towards an MOU that's already been drafted. And I think everybody's on the same page, and we've actually had a lot of additional helpful conversations along the way. So all in all, it was good to take a step back. So thank you very much.
Councilor.
Yes, and just one other, more of an aside, but we appreciate the advocacy of the Biopark Society. I would like to point out that we have historically had issues with the biopark, and I'm sure the director is well familiar with this, around parking. Years ago, it was centered in Morelos with the large gatherings for Mother's Day concerts and so forth, and the parking in that neighborhood. More recently, it's focused on the River of Lights, other needs for parking in the general area of the, I guess we'd call it the Biopark North facilities. And so I really want to encourage the Biopark Society to work with us as we work with neighborhoods to solve some of these problems. The Biopark North, again, to call it that, has a pretty nice parking lot. It's not enough of a parking lot for the River of Lights, but for the rest of the year, it's a large lot, and we have a lot of other activities going on in that general area and trying to revitalize that part of West Central. So I just encourage everyone in the society to understand that we need to all work together. These are public facilities, and parking is certainly something that it's always can be a challenge, but we also have a good public transit system that once the pandemic slows down, we'll be able to serve these areas well. And I just wanted to appreciate the Biopark Society, but also point out that we need to have continuing discussions about sharing facilities and respecting the neighborhoods that surround the biopark. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion from councilors? Seeing none, I'll ask Ms. Ortega to call the vote on approval for EC 144.
Councillor Bassan,
Yes.
Councillor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Congratulations, Dr. Sanchez. Thank you very much for working with everyone on that. Next up, EC 174. EC 174 is the approval of a second supplemental agreement with Windfire Production Services. I move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Gibson. I heard you first. And counselors, are there questions on this EC? Going once, going twice. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Excellent. Finally, we have OC 15, the appointment of Victor Griego to the Accountability and Government Oversight Committee. This is the item we placed on tonight's agenda. I move confirmation. Do we have a second? Thank you, Counselor Benton. Counselors, any discussion, any questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. Counselors, we are now on final actions. Counselor Gibson, I'm going to turn the floor over to you to manage, if that's okay, or to present for floor sub 028. I know you have a couple of guests to help you present the bill. And so I'll just let you introduce the bill. We'll take a second and then we'll give you back to the floor so you can introduce your guests.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is for floor sub 028, repealing the City of Albuquerque Code of Ordinances, sections 13-6-1 through 13-6-99, the pawnbroker ordinance, and replacing it with a new ordinance amending existing regulations applicable to pawnbrokers and extending regulations to precious material dealers, secondhand retailers, and automated consumer electronic kiosks. I'm going to move a do pass.
And counselors, do we have a second? Counselor Bassan, thank you for the second. Counselor Gibson, back to you to present the bill with guest or amendment.
Thank you. So I do have some amendments on here, but I do have some guests who are going to do short presentations. And one of them in particular is on a kind of a tight schedule. And so I'm wondering if, I think that what we will do if Mr. Steve Altanji is available, maybe we'll hear from, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm going out of order a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our staff attorney, Mr. Melendres, for a summary, and then we'll get to our two speakers. Mr. Melendres.
Thank you, Mr. President, Counselor Gibson. This ordinance deals with businesses that engage in pawnbroking, secondhand dealing, precious material buying, and consumer electronic purchases through automated kiosks. The initiative behind this ordinance began back in 2017. An ordinance was initiated then that proposed to regulate only pawnbrokers within the city. Historically, pawnbrokers have been the business that's covered here, the only business covered here that has been historically regulated. And in attempting to update those regulations, which are 20 years old plus in the city, the Councilor Gibson and council staff recognized in working with the pawnbroker industry that there were other businesses in the community that have similar dealings that might also be appropriate for coming within the purview of this ordinance. In addition, a study by the Bureau of Business and Economic Research at the University of New Mexico also recommended that businesses that do secondhand merchandise purchases and precious material purchases in the form of buying secondhand jewelry and the like should also be regulated in order to level the playing field for all these businesses in the city. To that end, this ordinance proposes to regulate pawnbrokers together with the other businesses, secondhand retailers, precious material buyers, and now automated kiosks. Leading up to the introduction of this bill, council staff and Councilor Gibson had a couple of community meetings, did outreach to the community, impacted community and businesses, requesting that folks attend these meetings and provide input. That resulted in input back into this ordinance from impacted folks and resulted in the drafting of the bill that you see today. Council staff also evaluated regulatory schemes in other cities around the region, including Tucson, Denver, and El Paso, and took from some of the practices there to incorporate in here, and also to try to ensure that the practices that the city of Albuquerque would be considering were at least on par with what was happening in those other cities. And so this ordinance does reflect that. In fact, it reflects some changes that were happening in those cities sometimes a full decade ago. And so perhaps a little bit behind the curve in considering updates in this regard in Albuquerque. The substance of the bill covers several businesses, which I've already stated, but to restate them now, it would regulate pawnbrokers, secondhand retailers, precious material dealers, and also the automated kiosks. That was the result of the floor substitute that the City Council passed at the last meeting. However, not all goods that are purchased by those businesses would be subject to regulation. Working with APD, a list of the goods that are most susceptible to being part of property crime cycle in Albuquerque were identified, and those include consumer electronics, firearms, jewelry, musical instruments and equipment, precious metals, precious stones, sporting goods, or tools, including power tools. And so if you're one of those businesses I mentioned that is engaging in secondhand transactions for one of those covered items, then record keeping would be required pursuant to this ordinance. The record keeping requirements would include a transaction number that would include a date and time of the transaction, a brief description of the item that's being acquired, whether it be a piece of jewelry, a cell phone, or whatever it is, the name, address, and date of birth of the pledger or seller, as indicated on a valid government identification card, and also photographs of both the item that is being pledged or sold to the business together with a photograph of the person doing the pledging or selling. There are also administrative remedies in the ordinance in the event of non-compliance. This would not be a criminal violation against anybody. And there are some of the remedies that would be included would be opportunities to, for example, improve record keeping if that was one of the issues that were identified. So the ordinance addresses the covered businesses that all deal in like transactions. It deals with the covered items that would be subject to record keeping and includes administrative provisions for how it would be administered and enforced by the city.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Melendez, and truly thank you for all of your help with this. You've hung in on this with me for, I think 5 years, maybe longer. So, Mr. President, we do have 5 amendments. However, before we get to the amendments, I would like to, if it's be okay with you, to go ahead and do the 2 presentations. We do have one with APD. Sergeant Jeff Bernard is with us to give a short presentation. And then our second speaker is Mr. Steve Altanji, who's Protection Asset Manager for Home Depot. So I've checked with Mr. Altanji. He's got a tight schedule, but he said he can wait for a little bit. So why don't we go ahead and do it in the order of APD first. So Sergeant, are you with us?
Is there anybody from the administration with APD?
Sorry, we're just not meeting the screen. I'm here now.
Okay, great. So go ahead if you're ready, Sergeant, we're ready for you.
Okay, I didn't know if the presentation was going to be up or not, but basically just to give
Sergeant, I'm sorry, let me interrupt just a second. We just needed to find you before we could get our presentation up. We're going to let Mr. Moya do that. So give us just a second. When he shares the presentation, you can begin.
All right, thank you. And we can start on slide 2.
Okay. And
I
there
see.
it is.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So just to go over some of the benefits of the way this proposal could help the department, it would likely increase the number of cases that we are able to prosecute, as we'd have a much greater volume of potential stolen property coming in. The additional requirements would help us with the conviction rate of the cases, as we have evidence that's a lot more pertinent to what the DA's office is looking for when prosecuting these cases. And it would additionally likely help us recover more stolen firearms, as the only stolen firearms we're currently recovering come from the pawn shops and none of the local gun stores. Next slide, please. So this is just up to date for this year. It's a little bit less than normal due to all the COVID issues we've had, but so far this year, the unit has investigated 79 cases. 74 of those cases have resulted in stolen property being recovered. 5 are actually the wrong item, which goes into some of the benefits of the ordinance that would help us identify the item more quickly if it was not the correct item. And then we've had 3 cases that have been sent to the district attorney's office for prosecution, and multiple of the cases are still under active investigation. Next slide. So this is the recovered firearms in 2019, just to give a better idea of what that was like prior to the COVID issues. So we recovered 20 stolen firearms that year, 36 cases involving firearms. 2 of those were prosecuted, and we were able to send some of those cases to our federal partners for recovery and prosecution. Next slide, please. This is our 2020 recovered firearm statistics. So far this year, we've recovered 13 stolen firearms, 23 cases investigated related to firearms. 1 case has gone to prosecution, 11 cases are still pending. We've investigated cases from 2 other agencies, which basically just means that we received the National Crime Information Center stolen hits, but the reports are taken by an agency like BCSO or Rio Rancho. 6 of those cases are closed pending further leads, and 3 of those were actually the wrong item. Next slide, please. This is one of the examples of a case that we were able to successfully prosecute with the stolen firearms. This subject had a firearm that was taken during a burglary in her possession. The pawn shop had good video footage of the offender, and based off that with their identification, we were able to show that they were in possession of that stolen gun. The subject was charged for receiving the stolen property, as well as the prod for trying to pass that off as their own item to the pawn shop. Next slide, please. So this gets into some of the benefits of the ordinance. With stolen property, we have a couple of elements that the district attorney's office needs to go forward with our cases. One of those is showing that the defendant knew or believed the item was stolen. The other being that the identity of the person, or showing that we know the identity of the person who pawned it. So we look at a couple things when trying to show knowledge of the item was stolen. An example of that could be when the theft occurred in relation to how quickly the item was pawned. So generally we see a strong correlation of them knowing the property was stolen if it's within 24 hours or 48 hours. Or if they have multiple stolen items from that theft. In those cases, sometimes they all are pawned or sold at the same business. Other times they go to multiple places to do that. And then we can also look at some of the items as far as if they have things that would help show who those items belong to, like a camera, if there's pictures on it, or a computer with personal documents. If that person pawned a computer, but they don't have the password to open up the computer, those are things that we could look at. And then the other big item is showing who that person is. So with these items currently, they just are provide a photo ID to the pawn shop, but it's really hard to verify if that photo ID is actually that person. Occasionally the pawn shop will have good video footage of the incident, which will help us correlate that picture with the video footage. But we do run into some of the same issues with fraud, where we have fake IDs or other things that really make it difficult to show that that is the actual person that stole those items. Next slide, please. So that's kind of where some of these things come in. Basically, right now, when we get a case from a stolen hit, we'll look at the original report. If there's any offender information in that report that kind of has any description of the subjects. We look at the specific details of where those items were taken, the correlation of how close they are with where they were sold. Looks at the video footage from the pawn shop, the pictures or surveillance video that any of the stores that they have. And that pretty much covers what we look at standard for most of these cases. If we don't have good video footage currently that shows that, we often aren't able to go ahead with prosecution because our only real alternative to having good video footage or a good image of the person selling it is a photo array. And the issue we run with that is that a lot of these businesses, they have so many customers that come in, but asking them if they're aware of that specific person that sold this specific item that maybe a few weeks ago, they usually don't have enough recollection of the event to say definitively that was the person. Next slide, please. This slide is just kind of going into more of those issues that we see with a lot of, there's a lot of fake IDs. There's a great deal of fraud that happens in the city, and that just kind of goes off of this. So knowing that we have a lot of people that do these same types of crimes that are involved in fraud, it makes it difficult without having actual images of the person pawning the item to say definitively it's them. Next slide. So this just kind of highlights how this ordinance could benefit that. We would obviously still look at the identification that they're providing, but having an actual picture of the item and of the person would allow us to compare those things and get a much more accurate, or not accurate, but it'd be a much greater evidentiary value than just a photograph. Additionally, with a lot of items, there's the description that's given in the information that the pawn shop provides doesn't always have the most detail of what was actually taken. So jewelry, for example, we have a lot of jewelry that's stolen. In those cases, a lot of times the pawn shop will just put that it's, a gold ring, or you'll see multiple items of jewelry and they sometimes described as scrap jewelry or something as simple as like silver ring. So with this would provide pictures for it. And in a lot of our cases where we have jewelry taken as an example, it has a high value to its owner. So they have pictures of it. And we can compare those pictures that they send us with the potential of the items that would be taken when the items are sold or pawned. They would also allow us to determine some of these cases that are the incorrect item a lot faster. So right now, when we think an item might be stolen, we put it on hold with the pawn shop, and then we need to kind of go down there and verify if that's the stolen item or not. This would help us to look at that item a lot faster and be able to determine if it's an item that we're looking for or if it doesn't appear to be. We also run into issues with serial numbers. You'll get a lot of zeros that could be O's or S's that could be 5s. So having a picture to compare those serial numbers would be very beneficial to us. And then a lot of the stuff that's stolen from stores and pawned, unfortunately, a lot of those stores currently aren't tracking the serial numbers for those items. So having pictures of the person that's taking it would be beneficial. We've actually had times where we've seen someone take something from the store. We have video footage of that incident. And then a few hours later, we'll see them go to a pawn shop and sell that item in that same clothing, the same person, it's the same item. So that kind of helps us tie those cases together. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to also make sure that we're aware of some of the things that would be difficult to do with this ordinance currently. Right now, for the pawn unit, there's only one detective that's fully dedicated to our pawn shop detail. Right now, we only have about 15 pawn shops. So even though it's very difficult for her and she works extremely hard, she's able to keep up mostly with the stuff that we have. But with this bill, I think it would have the potential up to approximately 150 businesses. that would drastically change the amount of cases that we would need to investigate, as well as the regulation or the regulatory duties of some of the things that we do. As an example, we currently conduct an inspection on the pawn shops once a year. So when we do that, our detective has to usually get help from another detective that has to stop doing what they're doing in those cases and assist her with that. And it probably takes us about 2 to 3 weeks right now, if nothing else comes up. So with this, it would be considerable more work just to do the inspections on that. I think that based off the amount of stolen property we could see and then the regulatory duties, we probably need to add 4 additional detectives to make sure that we're getting the full benefit of the ordinance. And that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Gibson, you have another guest, I believe, briefly.
Yeah, we do have one more presentation that I'd like to put up before there are any questions or discussion. That would be all right, Mr. President?
Sure, ma'am. Good.
Thank you. So next we have Mr. Steve Altanji. Mr. Altanji is with Home Depot, and he's been with us before, talked at FGO a few years ago about this bill and the need for it. Mr. Altanji is in asset protection management with the stores. Mr. Altanji, would you?
Yes. Good evening. Good evening, councilors, and thank you for your service to the city. I'd like to start out. I'm a former police officer, detective sergeant. I was involved. My unit investigated white collar larceny, narcotics, and burglary. Now for the past 7 years, I've been working for Home Depot in asset protection. I responsible for 10 stores. The stores here in Albuquerque, Gallup, Farmington, Durango, Colorado, and Santa Fe and Los Lunas. What I'd like to share with you is some shrink numbers that resulted from theft in some of our stores here in the city. Last year at 3507, which is our Coors and I-40 store, we lost $700,000 in just hardware and just power tools, portable power tools, and small hand tools and whatnot. And that wasn't the exception. That was the rule. The store on Renaissance lost like $400,000 from just one department. 3501, which is our Eubank store, they also lost around $700,000. So the tax revenue that's being lost to the city is astronomical. We've traced, in working with Sergeant Jeff Bernard and the OCU team with the Albuquerque Police Department and with our own in-house ORC team, which functions to attack organized retail crime, we've traced a lot of our tools to pawn shops. And I'm not saying that the pawn shops that they're doing what they need to do for their business, and they're doing it. They're legal what they're doing. But if we could have some help in regulating how the merchandise goes across the counter to them, it will help our ORC and our OCU units identify these suspects and enable us to further prosecution and stop. We're just bleeding out as far as theft is concerned. Just 3 days ago, we had a man and a woman come into our store at Coors and I-40. They entered the hardware right before closing. They entered the hardware department. They loaded up. They pulled. I'm sure most of you know we've locked up in most of our stores the power tools behind cages. Well, they ripped the cage right in front of an associate. They ripped the cage right off the tools and grabbed a basket full of Milwaukee tools. They then charged past the associate, and the associate ended up getting tangled up with a pretty large guy, and he got thrown to the ground, and they ran out the door. My team, my asset protection specialist, the guys that his main function is to stop the shoplifters, we no longer can put hands on. So the only thing we can do is try to get law enforcement involved and try to track them down after the fact. Albeit some of them do once they're stopped by our APSs, do provide their information and whatnot, but the majority of them do not. Me, on a personal note, I was stopping 5 years ago. I was stopping a shoplifter from running out. He had been a prolific shoplifter, and he stabbed me. He stabbed me in the kidney. So these are very violent, desperate people. And anything that you counselors could do to help us prosecute these people, it would be a benefit to the city, a benefit to our associates. Do you know that last year we had 125 serious incidents in the 4 stores in Albuquerque? A serious incident is classified as a suspect either using pepper spray, a knife, a weapon, or any kind of threat to use a weapon on our associates as they were fleeing with product. Now, our associates aren't trying to stop these guys; they're just pulling out these weapons as they're walking out the door, and they don't really need to. The merchandise that they're running out the door with is getting moved through pawn shops, getting moved through e-commerce, such as Facebook and OfferUp and those type of places. So if this ordinance will go a long way in helping Jeff and other law enforcement, the Attorney General and whatnot, prosecute these people and make it a safer place to shop in Home Depot. I thank you for your time, councilors.
Mr. Altanji, thank you. I see we have some questions from counselors, and so we'll ask you to stay on as long as you can if they have follow-ups for you. Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, sir. I think you answered my question as you were speaking. So it's Home Depot's policy not to interact with anybody who's shoplifting, correct?
Well, we do interact. My people will approach them, but they cannot physically interact. If they can, they approach them, they identify themselves with an ID, they tell them who they are, and they ask them if they to please provide their information, to return the item, and then if it's over $100, we will contact PD. The majority, my guys are doing a good job of with this hands off of making apprehensions without making an apprehension. But the majority of the people, they just take off. They just go running into the parking lot, you know.
So I had an experience at Home Depot. Me and my husband, we were kind of by the back door where you have your emergency exit. And we were told by staff, we had seen a man who had a basket full of stuff, and you can tell what he was going to do. And we were told by staff that the policy is not to do anything. So the gentleman just opened the back door and went out the door. So my question is obviously that shouldn't happen. I'm sorry, and it's unfortunate. And obviously you don't want to put any of your employees in any kind of danger. So I can understand why you would have a policy like that. But have you worked with APD to look at like inventory controls in terms of, like you said, you have some of the items locked up, but better controls? I know it turns into being a huge investment for Home Depot, but if you're, losing $400,000 a year, it seems like maybe, working with APD to come up with a better plan in terms of inventory control. I mean, people shouldn't be stealing, but I'm just saying that, I think that when somebody knows that it's your policy not to stop anyone, you become a target, and that's unfortunate. But maybe, working with APD, Sheriff's Department, you could look at some of those measures.
Yes, we do. And thank you for your question, ma'am. We have merchandise protection devices. We limit product on the shelf. We cage some of our product. We lock some of our product up. We do pick tickets. The problem is that these boosters they're doing the work for other people, and they're moving these things are getting moved so that these boosters can get some, usually is for drugs and whatnot. And so no matter if we lock up everything, to a point where it cannot be accessed at all, then we're not going to survive as a company. So what we end up doing is we try to get a balance between customer service and product protection. I can tell you this from my experience. I've been doing this all my adult life. I've been involved in law enforcement, and I can tell you that once you destroy or negate the place where they can sell it, once you stop that chain, the larceny, just like with burglaries, when you hit the place, the fences that are moving that product, the illegal fences. I'm not talking about pawn shops now. The illegal fences, and they have no place to move that merchandise. You see a rapid decline in the amount of burglaries, and the same thing with our larcenies, with our shoplifters. If we make it harder for them to move stolen items through a legit storefront, if we make it harder for the criminal to move that item, then we're going to see a reduction in the thefts from our store. Did I answer your question, ma'am?
Anything further?
You, Mr. President, thank you. Yeah, pretty much answered the question. I would just love for you to work with APD to look at some of those deterrents, because I mean, you know, this is obviously it's related to the pawn ordinance now, and I can see where your concern is. But I think just for public safety, just as a whole in our city, you know, I'd love for, you know, private businesses to work with APD just for some recommendations at minimum, because you know, whether it's at the pawn shops or whether it's some other avenue, they're going to find the path of least resistance. And I know, you know, I see it on. I'm a Craigslist kind of girl, so you can tell that lots of that is going through Craigslist as well. And this ordinance doesn't address that, but I'm just talking about a partnership. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Altanji, and thank you, Councilor Pena. Next up, we have Councilor Borrego and Councilor Bassan, and then we have a number of amendments by the sponsor before we get to final action here. So, Councilor Borrego, you're next.
Oh, thank you. So, Councilor Gibson, I'm not sure who this question would go to, but I have two questions. One is related to the kiosk, which I'm not certain what that is. I read it and I was like, I don't know what it is. So I'm short of not knowing that. And the second question that I have is with regard to the bond that's mentioned in the bill. What is the amount of the bond? Because I don't believe the bill actually said what the amount was.
So those are good questions. And I think that our staff attorney, Mr. Melendez, is probably the best one to address those.
Thank you, Mr. President, Councilor Gibson. So I'll start with your second question first, Councilor Borrego. The bill does reference the requirement for a $5,000 bond. That is only for pawnbrokers. So keep that in mind. And the reason for that requirement.
Also?
I'm sorry?
Does the state also require a bond?
Mr. President, Councilor Borrego, yes. And so that is the source of that. They're not two separate bonds. It is the one bond that is required by the state law that is just echoed in the city's ordinance.
Okay. All right. That clarifies that. Thank you. So,
and the reason they're only required for pawnbrokers is because the state law only addresses pawnbrokers. So the ordinance does not impose that bond requirement on any of the other impacted businesses.
Okay. Now, with regard to the kiosk, can you answer that?
Mr. President, Councilor Borrego, in working with the kiosk folks, and you saw one of the representatives earlier, it's essentially like a vending machine, except instead of going and getting a bag of chips, you walk up to the vending machine and there is a slot wherein you can deposit a electronic device. If you have an old cell phone, if you have an old tablet, and there is a video interface on that device. And on the other side of that video is an actual live person who is engaging with you through the kiosk. And they will value the device that you have, and you can place that device into the unit, and then you receive cash in exchange for the placement of your device. Then the device is used for parts and used for recycling, as was mentioned, and it can be the parts of it can be incorporated into new products. we were in working through this ordinance, we were speaking with our city clerk's office and our city clerk, or I'm sorry, not our city clerk, our city treasury office. And one of the staffers in city treasury actually relayed to us that that she recovered her stolen cell phone in one of these devices. And so that was part of the reasoning for bringing them into the purview of the ordinance, and the industry was actually very accepting of the city's regulations. This ordinance did not change anything with respect to the reporting requirements for the kiosks. The kiosks opted into the reporting requirements.
Thank you. I had not seen one of those, so I didn't know what we were talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Borrego. Councilor Bassan.
Mr. President, my question is really for APD, and I heard Councilor Gibson say Mr. Alatanji might need to go, so I don't know if somebody else has questions for him or for his sake of time.
Thank you, Councilor Bassan. I think you're our last question on this item, so we'll let you go, and then we'll let the sponsor decide how to manage your guest.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. So my questions, I think, Councilor Gibson, are directed to, kind of towards APD more. In regards to what is the plan? If this passes, what is the plan for getting those 4 other detectives that are going to be necessary in order to make sure that we have the availability to not just create an unintended consequence with a big backlog?
Currently, right now, just with some of the initiatives the department has, I don't know if any immediate staffing, at least on the sworn side, is going to happen. Some of the things that we've talked about is the possibility of being able to use some civilian employees for the inspection purposes to help take some of that responsibility off sworn. And then while we only currently have the 1 detective dedicated to pawn items, we have other detective units that we may be able to work with to assist on some of this caseload. But I do think that getting the specific units staffed would be a little bit down the road, to be honest.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant. And then, so I mean, I'm hoping that it was my understanding that our next cadet class is going to graduate in March. So here's hoping that we can move people around. And if this doesn't start taking effect for 90 days, if it's passed tonight, then I remain optimistic. What about the DA's office? And so if we start getting some more evidence, or, you know, following this ordinance, or what about the DA's office? I mean, how do they feel about this? Are they ready and excited to have more so that they can further with their prosecutions?
I don't know if I could really comment on the DA's office in regards to the ordinance, but what I can speak to is what we usually hear from them in regards to why they can't prosecute some of these cases, which generally has to do with correctly identifying the person or showing that they knew the items were stolen. So I do think that this helps address some of that. And I know that one thing that we constantly try to work with the DA's office on is looking at, you know, when a person has significant history in all aspects. So if this is a violent offender, or maybe somebody that's having other criminal issues, I know that these cases, you know, often when you have video evidence, be some of the cases that they have better evidence to prosecute. So it helps us attack things from all angles, so to speak.
Okay, thank you again for that. You know, and Mr. President, thank you. I'm going to follow up with one more. And I just think that there's something to be said about time wasted if we don't have the right kind of evidence in order to prosecute. So to me, it can go back to that cycle of, well, if we don't have enough manpower to get through it all, but what happens when we take all this time and then end up at ground zero anyway? And I think that's something very important. And the last one is just a comment that I noticed from the slideshow. And it really kind of hit home that was something I didn't think about. But one of the slides said, worse, we may prosecute those who have had their identity stolen and who are innocent. And I think that that is one of the outside of the box things that I haven't thought of yet, that could save some, you know, on the flip side, it could save some innocent people time and energy when somebody else has further done damage to their property and their persona. So I thank you for answering these questions. They were very clarifying.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor. Seeing no other discussion, Counselor Gibson, if you want to release, I'll leave it to you if you want to release your guest or how you want to manage, but I understand you do have some amendments. Actually, I see Counselor Sena wants to ask a question before we move to amendments. Counselor Sena.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And, I was hoping to hold off some of my questions just while we go through the amendments, but I wanted to, just for the sake of keeping the guest on, to ask this now. It was brought to my attention through some constituents who just had some concerns, and I really appreciate Sergeant Bernard for answering a lot of my questions earlier on when we had the phone call, but before as it gets addressed in the bill, but when would the video footage or pictures, if any, get utilized in this process?
So right now what happens is when an item is sold to the pawn shops or pawned, they report it to the Leeds online database. That information then is cross-referenced with the National Crime Information Center for any stolen items that come back, usually by serial numbers. So that's how we get most of our cases. And in those instances, we'll get alerted by Leeds Online that an item that was sold or pawned is showing similarities to an item that was reported stolen. So when we get that information that the item is stolen, we'll start looking into the item first to verify if the item is stolen. And then we'll start looking into the entire case as far as how that item was taken and who is the person that sold that item. The other times that we use this would be, as an example, if we had a theft where several items were stolen and maybe they're a little bit unique, we could search through the database for those items specifically to see if anyone has sold or pawned items that are similar to that. In which case we would still verify the items that we're looking for first. So in those instances, we're almost always trying to track down the stolen property and verify that that's the stolen property that we're looking for. And then we would start looking at the pictures of the person and the person's information that sold those items. I guess one other scenario that we see sometimes is at times when we have someone that believes they know who may have taken something from them. So in those instances, we might search that person's specific pawn history to see if they've sold any of those items that that person thought was taken from them.
Councilor Senate, anything?
Yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted to verify some of the concerns that was brought to me is that if there was utilization of this video footage, that profiling would occur, but it sounds like this is based off of the items itself. And as the items come up through the Leeds Online or is reported. So I appreciate that. I know we brought up other concerns as it relates to, we brought up Craigslist quite a few times, as well as Facebook. So, I hope that we can eventually look into more issues where it goes to that avenue. Some pawn shops and secondhand dealers have also stated that they serve as kind of a safe space for private transactions to occur. So does this get to any of that, or if they're able to utilize some of the footage that's from outside? I was just curious if we do address that in any way through this.
I'm just making sure I understand that correctly. You're asking if we look at it when they're kind of facilitating a purchase. Is that my understanding of what you're asking? They're not actually buying the item themselves?
Right. So if they're having private transactions outside of pawn shops or secondhand dealers, just as a safe space, because of course, through this, I know what we're all trying to get at and really addressing the issue. But I'm just curious if this ordinance in any way, or if there's been discussions, because of course, I haven't been a part of those discussions. So if this could be either for the sponsor or for you.
I haven't specifically seen many instances where they're facilitating those transactions as like a safe space, with the exception of maybe the new ordinance related to background checks with firearms from people. So I know that people with their FFL license will go to pawn shops or gun stores and they'll basically facilitate the purchase through them in those regards. So that would be the specific instance I could think of for that. But as far as that goes, I haven't seen it very often and I wouldn't know about it. Because if they're just facilitating the purchase, then it would never be regulated because they wouldn't be entering it into Leeds Online as an item that they purchased. So we wouldn't have a way to know that. I do know that at all of our substations, we actually have a safe space for transactions like that, where there's cameras present. So that would probably be my recommendation to people, how to do those Craigslist or Facebook sales in the most safe manner.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Counselor Senna. Seeing no other discussion, Counselor Gibson, back to you for your amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have 5 amendments, and I'll go ahead and they're designated A through E. I'll go ahead and with A, floor amendment number 1. On page 6, line 15, add the following after the word bond. The term of the bond must cover the entire duration of the initial annual permit or annual renewal period. The explanation is pawnbrokers are required to post a $5,000 bond that is intended to help cover damages or losses to a person that might result from a breach in her pledge agreement with the pawnbroker. The requirement for this bond comes from state law. The amendment was recommended by City Clerk's office to help ensure that the bond requirement of pawnbrokers does not expire during the duration of a pawnbroker permit.
Thank you, Counselor Gibson. Counselor Borrego, I see you. I think that's a second, but I know you had a question about this. So I just want to be sure it's not a question. Okay, great. Thanks for the second. Counselor Gibson for floor amendment number 1. Counselors, any other questions? Counselor Gibson to close.
I urge your support.
Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Counselor Gibson, item B.
Thank you. This is before amendment number 2. On page 8, line 8, add the following after the period. Alternatively, APD may approve a pawnbroker, precious material dealer, or secondhand retailer's use of a video surveillance system on a case-by-case basis where the system is designed to and effectively does A, capture a clear discernible color image of the full face of the pledger or seller at the time of the covered transaction as opposed to at the time of entry to the establishment. And B, includes an accurate time and date stamp that can be related to the time of and associated with the respective covered transaction. And C, where the footage is retained for a period of 90 days and made available for inspection to property unit enforcement officials during this time. And the explanation here, counselors, is that this offers an alternative to the uploading of a still image for every transaction. As an alternative, it would allow the use of video surveillance so long as it's approved by APD based on it satisfying the listed parameters listed above. Question from.
I think that's a second, Counselor Gibson, actually. So you have your second. And let me just say, I appreciate you working on this when you and I had a chance to talk about this. And I think this was an excellent accommodation and a recommendation from the industry itself that said they had some other ways to satisfy it. And I appreciate that APD and yourself was able to work on this. So thanks for that. Counselors, other conversation or discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask Ms. Ortega to call the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. Counselors, next up in your packet is item C, but you'll notice that there's a revised item C, and that's the one that I think Counselor Gibson is going to present here. Counselor, this one is pretty long, but Mr. Moya is sharing it on screen. And so I'll defer to you if you want to read it or just refer to the reference that it's on screen. But item C revised, ma'am, would be number 3.
Okay. Shall I read it in its entirety or just the explanation?
I think the explanation would be sufficient. Counselors had an opportunity to see it in their packets earlier today.
Okay. So the explanation reads that resale is only one method of selling or getting value out of an acquired good. The addition to the definition of precious material dealer will help clarify that the intent of the ordinance would also extend to all exchanges for value and sales of acquired items through sales in addition to retail and resale. This is consistent with how the ordinance applies to secondhand retailers and pawnbrokers. Then also removing the exception found on page 15, which is our second item above, will help close a potential unfair loophole for jewelry buyers that operate a quick cash storefront that sell to another business instead of directly to the public.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. I recognize Councilor Borrego's offered a second.
Thank you.
Councilors, oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Borrego, did you have a question? We couldn't hear you.
Yes, I just wanted to say that there's 2 ors in your amendment that are together. So you need to eliminate one.
Okay, I think probably we can get staff to edit that out, that typo out. Thank you for noting it.
Yep. Councilor Borrego, we'll have the staff reach out to you to figure out where that is if you see it. So, and we can do that through a clerk's amendment. Thanks for pointing that out. But I'm still going to take your second on floor amendment number 3. Councilor Gibson, we don't see any questions here, and so we'll ask the clerk to call.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Senna.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. Councilor Gibson, floor amendment number 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is, I guess this is the last one. And floor amendment number 4 on page 15, lines 16 through 17, amend section 5, the effective date as follows. Section 5.
I'm sorry, Councilor Gibson. I don't mean to interrupt you. I think I want to take you, I think you wanted to move item D, which would be floor amendment number 4. That would be the one for records for transactions that Mr. Moya is sharing on screen. If
Yes.
that's the way you want to go, it's easier for Mr. Moya to do it in order.
It is. Sorry, I must have gone right past that inadvertently. So now we're on D, which is floor amendment number 4. On page 8, line 17, amend subsection 13-6-8 as follows. Records for transactions with permitted vendors and other regulated businesses. Every pawnbroker, precious material dealer, and secondhand retailer shall keep a record of each transaction for a covered secondhand good with a permitted vendor or another pawnbroker, precious metal dealer, or secondhand retailer, which record must include only an invoice specifying the permitted vendor's name, address, and the date of sale to the pawnbroker, precious material dealer, or secondhand retailer. The explanation is that this amendment recognizes that transactions may occur amongst and between businesses that are regulated by this ordinance. This addition would clarify that a regulated business may acquire an item of merchandise from another regulated business without having to repeat the record-keeping requirements that were fulfilled by the original business that took in the item. Adding the word only is intended to help clarify that these transactions are subject only to the record-keeping requirements of this section.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Borrego has offered a second. Is there any other discussion or questions from council? Seeing none, Councilor Gibson, I guess we'll take that as your close and ask the clerk to call the vote on floor amendment number 4.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Senna.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah.
9-0.
Councilor Gibson, I believe you have one more. Item E number 5.
Right. Thank you, Mr. President. Floor amendment number 5 reads on page 15, lines 16 through 17, amend section 5, the effective date as follows. Section 5 effective date. This ordinance will be published by title and general summary upon enactment and takes effect on July 1st, 2021. The explanation is this amendment pushes out the effective date of the ordinance to coincide with the already in effect permit renewal date for pawnbrokers of July 1st. It will also allow the city to take outreach measures to help ensure that businesses are ready to acquire their permits and come into compliance with the ordinance. Urge your support.
Thank you, councilors. Is there a second? I'll offer one myself. And thanks, Councilor Bassan as well. Councilors, any questions, discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, Ms. Ortega?
Wait, sorry, Mr.
My
President.
apologies. Councilor Bassan?
Thank you. I just want to say that if this passes, that will help APD with that next cadet class that could graduate, and that maybe we can get more resources for having this occur.
Thank you, Councilor Bassan. Councilor Gibson, anything?
No, I'm urging your support on this last amendment.
Thank you. And Ms. Ortega, would you call the vote?
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton,
Yes.
Counselor Borrego,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
9-0.
Councilor Gibson, we are back on your bill as substituted and amended 5 times.
Thank you. So I'm ready to close on this, I think.
I see a question from Councilor Borrego.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. No.
Go ahead, Councilor Borrego.
No, I didn't have a question. I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button.
I'm sorry, thanks. My apologies. Any other questions from council or comments from the administration? Councilor Gibson, I don't see any, so I think you were going to close anyway, and I interrupted you, so we'll just let you have the floor back.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. There were a couple of things that I said, this is not going to be a long close. I don't like long speeches. I don't want to make long speeches. But a couple of things that I did hear during the discussion tonight that I would like to address real quickly, and that is our ever-present lack of enough police officers to do all of the work that we ask them to do every day, day in and day out. And this is one of them. I've talked about this ordinance with, I think it's been at least 4 police chiefs since I've been working on this, and they've all told me that staffing is an issue. So I would offer that actually this helps address that in a very significant and meaningful way, in that the more records we have of these transactions, with photographs and serial numbers and all of that, that more work can be done remotely, within the detective's office, for example. And so that there'll be fewer necessities for on-site visits. So there is that. Does that mean that we don't need 4 detectives? I'm not going that far. I'm just saying that this is going to make their job easier in this respect, because more data will be in the same place. The same thing can be said about the Eco ATM kiosk that we were learning about earlier today. I've never used one, but I'm glad that they're out there. And I know that they had been abused a lot until, this company, really figured out how to manage that aspect, the security aspect of it. And they're doing a really good job of it. So again, everything is, and it goes into a database, serial numbers, everything. And, it's easier to track stolen electronics that way. So, and besides that, I just want to thank everybody. Thank everybody for putting so much effort into this. already mentioned Mr. Melendres, but definitely Ms. Petra Morris has been instrumental on this. The APD folks, Organized Crime Unit, including Sergeant Bernard and Detective Santistevan, but so many of them that I won't even remember all of their names. And the industry. You know, I've gotten to know quite a few people out in the industry, had some really good conversations with them. We had, I don't know how many meetings, two regular public meetings, but we had several other meetings with him in City Hall and other places as well. So, you know, I appreciate their input into this and helping to make this a bill, which I think is really a good one. This is something that I believe is going to be a tool for law enforcement. So I urge your support.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. Seeing no other comment, I'll ask Ms. Ortega to call the vote on the bill.
Councillor Bassan,
Yes.
Councillor Benton,
Yes, and thank you, Councilor Gibson.
Councillor Borrego,
Yes, and also thank you, Councillor Gibson, for all of your hard work on this. I know you've been working on this for a long time, and I'm happy to see that it's finally going through.
Councillor Gibson,
Yes.
Councillor Harris,
A little too much regulation, so no.
Councillor Jones,
Yes.
Councillor Pena,
Yes.
Councillor Senna,
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes, congratulations, Councilor.
Passes on an 8-1 vote.
Councilor Gibson, as everyone said, you worked on this for a long time, so congratulations. And here's hoping the mayor will sign your bill.
Thank you.
Councilor Benton, you're next. 018.
Thank you, Mr. President. 018 is imposing a municipal gasoline tax of 2 cents per gallon, et cetera. Having, as presently written, to be used to rehabilitate public streets and roadway systems for the benefit of the city. I'd move a do pass.
And I'll second that. Seeing no other, Councilor Benton.
And councilors, you know, I'm gonna defer this one more time, but I do intend to bring forth a floor sub at our next meeting for up and down vote, and appreciate any thoughts you have about it. I've heard from one councilor specifically about it and about the timing of the election and so forth. Very interested in that. Heard from another councilor about specifically that this be about persons with disabilities, which it could be. But I've been kind of pushing this for some time now, as those of you who've been here with me for a while know. And I think the benefits to the city for things like Americans with Disability Act compliance and the massive backlog of, but between that and our just regular street backlog of maintenance is well over $500 million. Something we really ought to put before the voters. And I encourage you as we move forward on this, and I will move a deferral, but as we move forward on this, that let's put this in the voters' hands and have a discussion. And this is why I'm asking you that if you have specifics, if you want to limit how this money could be spent, any ideas that you have about the bill, I really want a discussion with you about it and encourage you to put forth amendments that we could incorporate into a floor sub, or just amendments that we could debate up or down at our next meeting. But interested in anything you have to say right now. Otherwise, Mr. President, I am going to move for deferral. This would be until November 16th.
Thank you, Councilor. For the record, I'll second that for deferral until November 16th. Is there any other discussion on the motion for deferral? Seeing none, I'll ask Ms. Ortega to call that vote.
Councillor Bassan,
Yes.
Councillor Benton,
Yes.
Councillor Borrego,
Yes.
Councillor Gibson,
Yes.
Councillor Harris,
Yes.
Councillor Jones,
Yes.
Councillor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Senna,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
deferred 9-0.
Thank you. Counselor Benton, you want to carry R104, the NTMP? It's you and I, but you want to do it?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. So R104 is adopting the 2020 update of the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program Manual, and I move a do pass.
As a co-sponsor, I'll second. So back to Counselor Benton.
Yeah, counselors, you know, the MTMP, I was the sponsor by request from the previous administration on this, and Department of Municipal Development for years has, prior to the NTMP being initiated, struggled with requests for speed humps. They were almost the only traffic control device or calming device that we knew of back in the old days was speed humps. There's so many more ways of dealing with neighborhood traffic, and this is focused on neighborhood traffic, not major corridors, but rather folks who pass through our neighborhoods, oftentimes at a high speed. And I'm sure you've all received the complaints from constituents about it. But I think this is a real advancement. I really appreciate everyone's work on updating this manual, including Tom Minicucci from our staff, and of course everybody at DMD, Tim Brown, our chief traffic engineer at DMD. We've really got a good group of people who have their hearts in the right place on this, and we're hoping that it will make it a more user-friendly system for our neighborhoods, and I'm pretty sure it will, because it lowers the threshold or the numerous thresholds that are options under the NTMP for applying for not just speed humps but other traffic control devices, and to look at all options as to how we can deal with kind of crazy traffic in our neighborhoods that endanger our children and families, just people out on the street. So, you know, I think this has been a good effort. It's been a long time coming. And yeah, it's good stuff. Appreciate President Davis for jumping in on this as well. It's been taken a while, but probably time well spent to, I think, as far as I can see, come up with a pretty good system.
Thank you, Counselor. I see Counselor Borrego has a question, and so Counselor Borrego, 2. Oh, you're offering a second. Thank you. Counselors, any discussion on this? Just very briefly, Counselor Benton, thanks for letting me join you on this. This is something you've been working on for a long time, I know, and all of us can benefit. You know, we don't need to tell a lot of stories today, but I'll tell one very quickly. Our office has been working with one particular street in the Victory Hills neighborhood on San Rafael for more than 2 years after they had submitted an NTMP request 2 years before. And so it took 2 years to get a study and another 2 years to get the engineering done to figure out how to do it. And literally just last week, speed humps and some new barricades went in to sort of mitigate the cut through and the speed issues. But honestly, if we're having a safety issue in your neighborhood that the city agrees is an issue, it shouldn't take us that long to address it. And I know it's not a deliberate issue, but it is, quite frankly, one of resourcing. And I remember when I first came to council, we had a backlog of more than 200 NTMP requests in neighborhoods across the city under the old administration. We all worked to help prioritize the ones in our districts with the new administration, and we started to develop a new one. This is by no means the better way, the full investment in what we need to address some of those issues, but it is a huge step forward. And so I think it's one of those cool things that somebody a long time ago thought of, that our neighborhoods can actually organize themselves, identify a problem, and bring us some suggested solutions. It's not many places in government where you can do that. I think it's a great idea to make that more accessible to more people, and hopefully this will work. And I look forward to working with Mr. Real and DMD and Mr. Montoya and his team to be sure that these new resources go into those engineers that we need to get rid of those backlogs. So thanks for working on it. That's my speech of the night. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Seeing no other discussion, we'll be back to Councilor Benton to close if there's anything further, and then we'll ask Ms. Ortega to take.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, thanks to Pat Montoya and Lawrence Rael. And again, I mentioned our traffic engineer, the work everyone has done on this. You know, it's the right time to move forward on it. And I urge your support.
Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton.
Yes.
Councillor Borrego.
Yes.
Councillor Gibson.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Pena.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
Councillor Davis.
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Benton. Councillor Harris, you're our last item up this evening. You invited a bunch of us to join you as co-sponsors, but this was something you began, so I think we let you present. Councillor Harris for M1. Don, or Councillor Harris, your mic. I think we lost you there. Your microphone. There. Oh, one more time. Councillor, try it one more time on your end.
Heck. Okay, how's that?
Much better.
How's that? Okay, that's better. I have fat fingers or something. Any event, yeah, we have 4 counselors on this, and we'd love to have 5, but then that would break the rules. We'd have a rolling quorum or whatever it is. If Councillor Sena joined us, but I'm sure she supports it because she's on Route 66. Over half our council touches Route 66. And this memorial calls for the city's support of Congress amending the National Trail System to designate Route 66 National Historic Trail. Passed by the House of Representatives June 5, 2018, and currently being reviewed by the U.S. Senate, the Committee on Energy and Natural Resources. So this would, you know, as you know, Route 66 runs through the heart of the city of Albuquerque along Central Avenue, and this could provide some major economic stimulus. And I don't know if you want to comment further, Mr. President, or any other councilors on Route 66 want to comment also.
Councillor Benton, go ahead, sir.
Just a second. I was just offering a second.
I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. Councillor Pena, then Councillor Sena.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to thank Councillor Harris. I really appreciate this. I think it's going to go a long way. As you know, the 100th year anniversary is coming up in 2026, even though it sounds like it's just a ways away. It's going to be here before you know it. So I really appreciate it. As you know, a lot of my work has been concentrated on West Central and obviously the Visitor Center at Tappanama Hill. And I just, you know, want to say that, you know, I've always argued since I was doing the community work that, you know, we have the longest urban stretch of the historic route in the nation. And I feel like as Albuquerque, we haven't capitalized on that as much as we could or should. And so I really appreciate you, Councillor Harris, for bringing this forward. I just want to read one thing from a study that's done. It just says that the average traveler spends an average of $1,500 to $2,000 per travel party. A conservative estimate aggregate of annual expenditures by all Route 66 travelers in the United States is $38 million. So, and that's a rough estimate. So, you know, I just, again, want to thank you, Councillor Harrison, and I hope that we can attract some dollars here to Albuquerque.
Thank you, Councillor. Well said. Councillor Sena, then Councillor Borrego.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. Thank you for that, Councillor Harris. I absolutely do support this. I think it's phenomenal, and especially when leveraging federal funds to support Central, I couldn't support it even more. As I think those that made comment at public comment said it best, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Borrego.
Thank you. And thank you to all of the council sponsors for this particular bill. When I worked for the city in the redevelopment office, many of our redevelopment areas touch Central Avenue and are located on Central Avenue. So if you think about, you know, the stretch, when we worked at the city, we created 2 gateway parks. One on coming into the city from the west side and one coming into the city from the east side. The Gateway Park in Councillor Harris's district is located right when you drive into Central and Tramway. And then Councillor Pena is working on her Route 66 center, which will be another area that will identify this area as a historic route. So I think, you know, it's been long coming, and I'm glad to see that it's finally here, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. And Councilor Harris, let me just say thanks for doing this. I agree. As we said, we're working on revitalization. And Councilor Benton and I have been talking about with some of the business associations and main streets about bringing back neon and looking to revitalize that. We just passed tonight a $500,000 marketing program to invite people to get back to Central right here before the holiday, where our most iconic local business, many of our most iconic local businesses are. So thanks for taking this up, and thanks for also bringing in the East Gateway MRA that's just getting underway now for that planning in that part of the town. So there's a lot to look forward to on Central Avenue, and this would certainly add to that. So thanks for bringing this, and hopefully it gets the recognition it deserves in DC as well. Councilor Harris to close.
Urge your support. Thank you, everybody.
Ms. Ortega.
Councillor Bassan. Councillor Bassan?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Councillor Benton?
Yes.
Councillor Borrego?
Yes.
Councillor Gibson?
Yes.
Councillor Harris?
Yes.
Councillor Jones?
Yes.
Councillor Pena?
Yes.
Councillor Senna?
Yes.
Councillor Davis?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Madam Clerk, our other item did not get added to the agenda this evening, so that's the conclusion of our business. Is that right?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Thank you all. Thank you for helping us get through this meeting this evening. A fairly short order. We appreciate it. I can't imagine that anybody doesn't know that tomorrow is election day at this point, if you have not seen your TV ads and every other thing in your mailbox. But if by some chance you don't, go make your plan and go vote tomorrow. It is the last chance, and everyone counts. Thank you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks.